We have a rather short agenda today. Having said, we still have the room till 11 o'clock if need be. So we will go on to agenda item 2, approval of the 3/9/16 minutes. Is there any objection to approving these minutes? Seeing now, we'll approve them by unanimous consent, and they are approved. We'll now move to a period of open meeting roll call led by Pro Tem Dean. Please come forward. Opening roll call.
SVP Benigno. Chief Justice Smith. Howdy. Speaker Mitchell.
Howdy.
Myself, Chair Sonka, Page. Page.
Howdy.
Finney. Lander.
Howdy.
Carlson.
Howdy.
Hood.
Howdy.
Bosworth.
Howdy.
Bill.
Howdy.
Gordon.
Howdy.
Allen.
Howdy.
Walker.
Howdy.
White.
Howdy.
Roach.
Howdy.
Renfro.
Howdy.
Smith.
Howdy.
Chapman.
Howdy.
DeBoer.
Howdy.
Rose.
Howdy.
Ferguson.
Howdy.
De Leon.
Howdy.
Hendricks. Powers. Ration. Howdy. Close. I'm gonna get it officially. Hunter Brown.
Howdy.
Nick Brown.
Howdy.
Henderson.
Howdy.
Hess.
Howdy.
Lambert.
Howdy.
Robinson. Turpin.
Howdy.
Gillen. Cook.
Howdy.
Sweet. Habib. Wright.
Howdy.
Blair.
Howdy.
Cox. Kubiar. Howdy. Kuplat.
Howdy.
Luz.
Howdy.
Ballard. Dave.
Howdy.
Flavin. Roseanne.
Howdy.
Clark.
Howdy.
Lewis.
Howdy.
Pat. Heath.
Oh, howdy.
Pause. Price. Rios.
Howdy.
Blackman.
Howdy.
Bonin. Brennan.
Howdy.
Chen.
Howdy.
Collins. Quist. Davis. Emmons.
Howdy.
Giles.
Howdy.
Gill.
Howdy.
Hemphill.
Howdy.
Hutton.
Howdy.
Cruz. Frog.
Howdy.
Langston. Levy.
Howdy.
McNair. Mathis.
Howdy.
McDonald. Mendoza.
Howdy.
Murtha. Gill. Rao. Simpson.
Howdy.
Statham.
Howdy.
Strother. Trano. Turner.
Howdy.
Thank you very much, Pro Tem Dean. We will now move into a period of invocation and pledges of allegiance led by Senator Gordon.
Please bow your heads with me. Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you for this time that we get to legislate and advocate for the student body. I pray that this week, of all weeks, that with the death and resurrection of your Son Jesus Christ, that we will do everything to honor and glorify you. I pray that the meeting's quick and productive, and that we serve the student body to the best of our abilities. In your Son's name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
And now we'll move into a period of mission statement and Aggie honor code, also given by Senator Gordon, our longest serving non-officer senator.
All right. The Texas A&M University Student Senate represents all students in order to enhance the Texas A&M experience within our university and communities through research, legislation, and advocacy in accordance with the core values of our institution. The core values are: an Aggie does not lie, cheat, or steal, nor tolerate those who do.
And now we'll move into a period of the singing of the Spirit of Aggie. But before we begin singing, I want us all to take a quick moment of silence to honor our late Director of Student Activities, Rusty Thompson, and our moment of silence will conclude with the beginning of the Spirit. And we're having some technical difficulties with our Spirit of Aggie. So one moment, please.
Someday close, the brow is full of the school that thinks so grand, but there's a spirit can never be told. It's the spirit of Aggie land. We are the Aggies are we. True to each other as Aggies can be. We've got to fight, boys, we've got to fight. We've got to fight for maroon and white. After they boosted all the rest, they will come and join the best. We are the Aggies are we. We're from Texas AMC.
Thank you very much. We'll now move into a period of open forum, beginning with Lauren Felder, a political science graduate representing the 68th Student Senate. 67th, oh, man. 67th Student Senate.
1,000 years long.
Please stand. Please stand. She lives down the road, and she is Phi Tech Sag class of 2015.
Hey! Woo! Well, howdy, Senate.
Hey.
It's been a while since I've been here. It looks a lot different. So, long story short, I'm here to kind of has-been it up today because I still have the CR pass down that's been in Senate for 5 or 6 years now. I was a CR chair last session, so who's CR chair now? Come here. Hi, nice to meet you. Hope it's going well. Lots of legislation going through, I'm sure. Yeah? Yeah, good stuff. Well, here's your beloved pass down. Open it, feel free. It's nothing big.
Oh, sweet. Oh, bow tie.
Beautiful bow tie
Beautiful
to
bow tie.
Evergrade's coldest 144.
We'll now go to our period of question and answer. Are there any questions for Ms. Felder? Yes, Senator Broach.
Senator Brojack and Life Science. Ms. Felder, would you please just kind of enlighten us on some of the things that you really feel that you accomplished while you were in this?
Well, I helped pass concealed carry on campus. I helped rebuild relations between the students and the local city officer. And like I impeached someone sometime.
And I will now recognize myself. Can you give us a little bit of history on the bow tie, how it came to be, what its legacy is?
I mean, I just know it's been around since the Sierra chair was established, and former chair, I think Justin Price, wore it. And the tradition was to wear it to your last Senate meeting as the CR officer, and then take it off and give it to the next CR officer. Well, you know, like, I'm not a dude, so I don't wear a tie. So that's just a little bit of the history of it.
Awesome. Are there any other questions? Ms. Belver, thank you very much.
Great to see you all.
We will now go to James Fish, representing Student Health Services, Fighting Texas A class of 2016.
Okay, I was a doctoral student. I didn't get to go through fish camp or anything like that, so I'm still learning the traditions, but I promise once I get my ring next week or 2 weeks from now.
Motion, sir.
Zach Cross, Student Services. I motion to extend the period of presentation to 15 minutes.
Motion to extend 15 minutes has been made and duly seconded. All in favor of extending 15 minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. That passes unanimously. Very good.
Thank you. So
Bring this up.
okay, thank you. So I came to talk with you today about medical excuse notes. How many of you have been to Butyl for a visit? Oh, good, good. I hope you never have to go again. And not because we're not a great facility, because we are, but really because we would prefer that the students stay well. That's part of our motto. So you can do well in class and graduate on time, right? That's what we all want. I was a 5-year plan in my PhD program, so it took me an extra year. But this is really, I think, a huge student issue. And I really hope you'll take this to heart, because I am the Associate Director for Medical Services at the Student Health Services at Butyl. My boss over there, Martha Dannenbaum, Dr. Dannenbaum, she is the director. And we've been really trying hard to kind of educate everybody. So I'm here to educate you today on the whole medical excuse issue. So please don't send my name up to President Young saying I did this or anything like that. I'm just educating you on this issue. But I hope it's important enough to you all when you realize, as the associate director, one of my responsibilities is I take complaints from students. So when you call me and say, the professors made me go back for the 3rd time to get the note right, that's when I started to realize we had a problem. Almost immediately this happened. My first day here, a student came in and said, I can't get this right. The problem is the physician who wrote the note refuses to change it. It is what it is. And so we've got an inequity on the faculty side because each faculty member wants it their way. We've got an inequity on the student health services side because every doctor at Butyl does it their way. I mean, our chief of the medical staff, who's the chair of the ethics committee for the American College of, thank you, what?
American College Health Association.
Thank you, American College Health Association just wrote a great article on medical excuses. Matter of fact, it's such a great article, I really hope you'll read it, because a professor read it and went out and sent it to the provost, and the provost said, no more medical excuses at American University. So let's just go through it real quick. Wrong way, okay. Let's try that again.
One second. Are we, what sort of situation?
Can I say slide or something?
Should work now.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Right. Just,
Oh, right, okay. Thanks.
no problem.
When I teach, it's up and down. It's up. Okay, so, Texas A&M, we love our traditions, right? Unfortunately, this is one of those traditions that we need to get rid of because it's not a positive tradition. It's actually, in my opinion, anti-honor code. We have an honor code here at A&M. I was glad that we talked about it here and we brought it to everybody's attention because I think that's really how we can get out of this situation by saying, look, we're Aggies. We tell the truth. Yeah, there are some that don't, and they need to go. And so what I'd like to do is restore the honor code as far as, and restore the relationship between a faculty member and the student. Because the bottom line is, you are stuck in the middle of this whole thing. And I don't think that's appropriate. So this practice has been perpetuated by a current student rule, number 7, which is the attendance rule that the faculty senate has signed off on in the past and changed it to make it even harder and harder. Now, there's 2 pieces to the rule. I just want to talk about before I even go to the next slide. One is, if you get seriously ill, you're in a car accident, you have appendicitis, you have mono, it's going to take you out for more than 3 days. We already take care of that with student assistance services. We contact them, they work with the deans of the colleges that you're in, and they take care of that. The issue is more 1 or 2 day illnesses. That's really the issue here. Because what happens is, if you're throwing up and have diarrhea and you don't go to class, you have to get a medical excuse note from the professor. And then the professor may or may not take it. And the student attendance rule basically makes it very clear that even if you have a note, it's always the prerogative of the professor to accept the excuse or not. So in essence, why do we even have it? That's my okay, so here's the relationship. And again, the students really are kind of caught in between. I'm going to give you 3 perspectives. From the faculty, you need to see it. I need to be as objective as possible, even though as a student, I felt that it was wrong. But from the faculty perspective, it's the 1%ers that are really ruining it for everybody. It's those that falsify notes, that just use it as, they sleep in too late, they party too much at Northgate, and they decide to use butyl because they've figured out the code, right? Dr. X will always give me whatever I ask for, and they'll come in. It's the poor, honest student that gets stuck because they're really truly ill and they go to the medical facility and they see the wrong doctor who will not give them the excuse the way the professor wants it. So these absences create additional work for professors and teaching assistants and lab assistants, and you understand that, right? They have to do makeup tests, but labs are particularly heinous, right? Because there's a lot of time involved in setting them up. There's a lot of resources involved in setting them up, and so to have to redo it for a student just doesn't work. It's too much time and too much resource to do that. So they're really a problem. Like I said earlier, the medical notes are inconsistent and they do not contain enough information to determine what the absence should be excused according to the professors. The faculty also say, well, we're not qualified to judge this. Well, as you'll see when we get to the student health services perspective, we're not really qualified either, because what's a headache to one is a migraine to another. And can anybody ever heard of a test that you can test for a migraine? No, it's all what you tell us. So the fact that the physician-patient relationship is one of trust. We have to believe the symptoms that you tell us. So if you got on WebMD and you give me all the symptoms for dengue fever, you may point the physician in the wrong way, which could be a bad thing, especially if you want to do military service down the road, right? Because you could get precluded by lying with your symptoms, and it ends up in a medical record, and now you can't, enlist or become an officer or whatever. So, and they also say that fabricated excuses create an unfair advantage, and that's absolutely true. But we can't legislate morality, right? We try. So here's the student perspective. At least, I'm sure you'll have other perspectives, but they're caught in the middle of this triangle. The current student rule creates this tension between students and faculty because you're doing your best to, cooperate and graduate, right, and get through. And their lack of trust in you and making you go back and forth to the medical center trying to get all this stuff really creates a problem. So, having a policy that requires students to obtain medical excuses literally forces students to come seek medical care when they don't need to. When you have a sniffle or a cold, you don't need to come to the facility. Now, one of the issues is many of the brand new freshmen, they've never had to take care of themselves. They don't know how to self-treat a cold or, a flu or a sore throat, and so they come, and we understand that. But part of our job is to educate you on what you need. But what you don't need is the added hassle of having to deal with your professor. There is an Aggie honor code. I make it as simple as possible. Shouldn't students just be able to tell their professor that they're sick? I mean, the professor's going to say yes or no anyway, whether you got a butyl excuse or not. So, so here's our perspective from the medical side. So medical excuse notes place an undue burden on the health center staff. Do you know how many we do a year? In one academic year, we do 18,000 medical excuse notes. Now the problem is I can't separate the notes that were written for truly sick students and the ones that are just gaining it, to get an excuse so they can, stay in the class. Appointments, both scheduled and walk-in, for the purpose of obtaining just a medical excuse, clog up our system. So I don't know what the real impact is because, I can't quantify, if this excuse was written for. I have physicians who have their nurses write the excuse before they even see the student. So how can I include those or not include those? I don't know. So, but the bottom line is truly ill students end up having to walk in because there's no appointments.
5 minutes.
Yep, no problem. And then, they have to walk in. And sometimes, like right now, today we saw 153 walk-ins. Sometimes it's 200 walk-ins. And that can mean a 2-hour wait. So here's another problem. Most of the illnesses we see at Butyl are not something that we can medically verify. There's just no medical test that says, yes, you've got that. Sure, there's strep throat tests and there's other types of throat swabs and blood tests, but many of them we can't. If you come in on a Monday and tell me that you've been throwing up all weekend or had diarrhea, how can I figure that out as a doctor? They can't. And they have to believe you. So the problem is, they can't verify your illness. And ethically, they shouldn't have to. Many students come in to be seen after the illness is resolved, wanting a medical excuse. The weekend example is a perfect example. It's inappropriate for faculty expect the student health services physicians to make a judgment about a student's ability to attend class. Again, what's a migraine to me is just a headache to you. So it's difficult to tell. I think it's unethical for a university policy to put the physicians in a position where they're supposed to sign a statement verifying that you have an illness and when they haven't even looked at it. It's difficult. But many physicians feel for you as students. Again, here's what I talked about earlier. There's inconsistency amongst our own physicians as to how they write those medical excuses. Some write for everybody. Some won't write them hardly at all. Some write only for those that are seriously ill or are contagious. There's inconsistency among the faculty accepting those notes. Some want full details. I had to call one professor and tell her it is inappropriate to tell the student to sign a document giving you the facility permission to send your medical records to her. There's no way that's going to happen. Under FERPA, we cannot provide any health information about you without your written permission. Even your parents. So pass the word, because I get a ton of angry moms who want to know what happened, and I can't tell them. That's just the law. So again, here's the numbers. We see about 500 a day during the peak times. Of those, about 300 are scheduled, 200 are walk-ins. And the wait time can go up to two hours. In 2015, we provided 18,000 medical excuses. What do you think the cost is? I almost sent this into as like a fraud, waste, and abuse thing because it's just so much money.
2 minutes.
Yep. So here's what I propose. In the current rule right now, here's what it says. The university views class attendance as an individual student responsibility. Students are expected to attend class and complete all assignments. Instructors are expected to provide notice of the dates on which major exams will be given. And then basically it ends with students who are requesting an excused absence are expected to uphold the Aggie Honor Code. That's in there right now. I say we don't need anything else but that. Absence policy should be determined by the colleges and their departments, and professors should set their own threshold for what constitutes. One of the biggest areas that I see all the time is in the health and kinesiology, right? Those 1 credit classes that you take, you know, they are brutal with their policy. And I think it's okay if they said 2 misses, you know, and you have to retake the class because it's an activity class. How can I jog if I don't go to class? Right? How can I lift weights if I don't go to class? So, final thoughts. Last slide. Students that are too ill or too contagious should not attend class. They should not come to Butyl and get everybody else sick unless they're really, really hurting, and they should not take the bus to get everybody else sick. They should be able to call their professor or email them and say, I'm sick. Absences due to illness should be viewed by faculty, staff, students, and administrators as an aspect of the university honor code. And students should be able to come when they need it, but don't come when they don't need it. And they should be able to personally say to the faculty, I'm sick. It's up to the professor, of course, but that's it. All right.
Excellent.
Questions?
Thank you very much, Mr. Fish. Are there any questions? We'll begin with Senator Turpin.
Senator Turpin, Engineering. Sir,
Hi.
I just want to thank you so much for coming out and giving us this information. I have one concern though. So what I heard you just say is right now in the status quo, what we've got is doctors that are like writing the notes like inconsistently, and it's really arbitrary. Under your proposals, won't that just like transfer to the professors being arbitrary?
Yeah, but where does the responsibility for deciding belong? It belongs with the professors. Excused absences is an academic issue, not a medical issue, unless it's a serious illness. Then we'll step in on the student patient's behalf and get student assistances involved. Nobody's saying that somebody who has a car accident and, you know, broken leg and, you know, shouldn't get that, you know, have student assistance services on behalf of the student talk to the dean of the college. I believe that's correct. My biggest concern in this whole mess is the faculty's, you know, they're just gonna pass it off and not pass it, not even consider it.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
We'll now go to Senator Yoss. Senator Turner.
Senator Turner off campus, excuse me, I won't sit myself. Why did you not see a standardized excuse form not be the way that you made the situation?
I personally believe that it's the same thing, the standardized excuse form. I mean, right now, there is a form called the explanation of illness for less than 3 days. That's on the student rule, but nobody accepts it. Professors will not accept that. It's even in syllabuses. We will not accept that because that's an attestation of, on my honor, I was ill and I couldn't get there, Professor. I would personally advocate that if syllabuses are clear and you say, I mean, yeah, I was talking to Dr. Dannemong about this. When she was in medical school, there were classmates that she only saw during the exams, but they're doctors now. It depends on the type of, you know, material in the course, and of course it's up to the professor to determine, you know, whether or not you need to show up. Like in my class, my finance class, I don't demand attendance at all, but they better be able to do the work because I'm going to grade accordingly. And that's a fair system. I mean, if you have stuff going on, I mean, many of my students, they're all graduate students, they're married and they've got families and kids and you know, I've got 5 kids. Trust me, when stuff happens, you just got to go. And so I think any kind of prescriptive thing like that is a mistake. That's my opinion.
I'll go to Chair Hood.
Chair Hood, Finance. Have you had conversations with the faculty at Texas A&M and how they receive this?
I have. They have not received it very well at all. Because it's very convenient to be able to push responsibility while still maintaining the the ultimate decision, right? And so what they try to do is they try to force the student to force the physicians to do it the professor's way. And there's a lot of professors here. I mean, 17,000 or something like that. It's a lot, but yeah. So.
And I'll recognize myself next. Can you talk a little bit more about this idea of the patient-doctor relationship and how essentially if you were to lie to your professor, it's either that if you're trying to fake an absence, you're either lying to your professor under this or you're going and lying to a physician. And it just, you know, can you talk a little bit about what the doctor-patient relationship entails?
Sure.
What a doctor assumes as a student's coming.
Sure. I mean, the physician-patient relationship is one of trust. I trust you to tell me the truth. And when you have that trust, then you can go and say, I had unprotected sex at North Gate and I'm a little worried now. Can I have an STD test? I mean, that's the kind of relationship you want with your physician. You want to be able to tell them everything, and you don't get judgment, you don't get anything, but they do take care of you medically, and that's what we want to do. And so that's just the nature. I mean, that's what physicians are taught in college. Yes, Dr. Dannenbaum? Yes. Yes, Hippocratic Oath, right? First do no harm, right? And they trust the patient. That's what we're here for. And I can tell you that for Dr. Dannenbaum and myself, that is our goal. We are student-focused, student-centric. Everything we do, every change we make is for the betterment of the students. Did I answer your question, Nolan?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Do we have any other questions from it? Yes, Senator Brown.
Senator Brown, engineering. So it seems like you want to take student health services out of the mix here. So let's say I'm throwing up on the day of the test or whatever, and I can't make it to the test. It's my word against, it's my trust the professor has to have me, rather than having like student health services, like a medical bill, even with those 1%ers. I guess what I'm trying to say ultimately is it's worth having the 1%ers screwing up everyone for those people who are like actually, for those people who are actually being honest about their errors. It's worth having student health services back you up and with the professor.
I mean, that's a really good perspective. And if you are throwing up and you go into a facility, of course we're going to see you. That's not the issue for me. But the issue is, why couldn't you email or call the professor and say, I'm throwing up, I don't want to come to class. Let me tell you how ludicrous it is. Here's an example. Dr. Dannenbaum has personally had this happen to her. A student's in class, they feel ill, but they go to class anyway, which I think is a good idea, but they go to class anyway. They throw up in class right in front of the professor. Guess what the professor tells them to do? Go to Butyl and get a note. Really? I mean, that just makes no sense to me. That's how ingrained this thing is. Wouldn't it be better if you could just say, you know me, I come to class all the time. I'm not a 1%er, right? I mean, I'm sick. My professors always did that. I mean, but I always went to class as much as I could. But when stuff happens, you just say, I can't be there today.
I guess my point against that is I'm in a lot of big classes as a freshman.
Yeah.
During the first year is like, there's not much relationship.
Yeah, sorry, please limit back and forth. You have to be recognized. Yeah. But we're going to go to Senator Day, and I'll come back to you, sir.
Senator Day, College Science. Actually, that's the stat. So, permission to preface?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So under this new thing, you want to take student health services out of the mix. I don't have any excuse notes. Do you foresee any problems possibly in large freshman classes where there's 200, 300, 350 students, and you may not have a personal relationship with the professor because you can't? Professor just saying straight up, no excuse absences unless you have to go to the hospital. Like there's.
I mean, this is a great point. It really is. Dr. Pitts from the math department. Okay. So I've talked a lot with Dr. Pitts, and he finds them totally distasteful. This whole new note thing, right? But he told me, he said, what I've tried to do is I've tried to say, there's an exam, a major exam on this date, and this date is the makeup. He announces it in advance. And I mean, how could you miss both of them? I mean, if you're really concerned about your studies, we will make sure that you're there. I mean, I can tell you, I've been really, really ill and had to go take exams, but 80% is certainly better than 0%. And that was always my philosophy. And so, yeah, I've blown a couple exams and gotten a B, but I studied harder to make up for that later when I was feeling better.
With a minute 30 remaining, we'll go back to Senator Brown. Withdrawn. Concede was close. We'll go to Senator Turner with a minute 20 remaining.
Senator Turner, office. Another question. So is this, or clarification, so you want to change the whole Rule 7?
I need to be clear. I don't want, if you want to, change it. But I tell you, here's what will happen if these go away. There will be more appointments for students to come to Butyl. We have suspected for quite a while that 56,000 students are not coming. I see 25,000 unique students every year. To me, that says there is demand, but people can't get in or they don't want to wait for the appointments. And I believe, you know, if you just take the raw numbers of 18,000 medical notes, and you say 15-minute appointment for every note, that's 2.4 physicians. I mean, think about that. So it's not that Jim Fish wants to get rid of them. I see it as a gross inequity. I see it as it's against social justice because you're not being treated fairly. Sorry, am I talking too much?
Oh, no, yeah.
Okay. And I forgot what the third one was. So,
All right, is there any motion to extend the question and answer? Yes, Senator Lewis.
Senator Lewis, liberal arts, motion to extend by 2 minutes.
Motion to extend by 2 minutes has been made and duly seconded. All in favor of extending the question and answer by 2 minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Passed unanimously. We will now go to Senator Hutt. Then we'll go to Chair Page.
Chair Page, Academic Affairs. Is what you're proposing or recommending, would that actually remove the ability of a student to get a medical note should they actually be very sick and request one while they're there?
Of course not.
Thank you.
But, you know, we would, I don't mind if a student says, I need a note. You know, I just want one. And that's okay. But the idea that the professor is sending the students back more than one time to get a note so they can give permission just makes no sense to me. I think it's a massive waste of students' time and of our physicians' time.
Thank you.
And these are highly paid professionals, so.
And with a minute 14, Senator Lewis.
Senator Lewis, liberal arts, permission to preface.
Yes, sir, be brief.
From my own personal history, I've seen that majority of the time that the professors have been dictated an attendance policy by financial aid. Students who are receiving financial aid have to have mandatory attendance in the classroom.
Sure.
So in changing Rule 7, how will that actually affect not only the faculty, but will it also affect that same policy for attendance with financial aid?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
I can tell you though that Texas A&M is one of the few major universities left that still does these. If you looked at the list, you'd be amazed. Cornell, Duke, Princeton, I mean, there's University of Texas, right? Yeah. But I mean, we are one of the few that still hang on to this for some reason. I just don't know why.
And with that, the period of question and answer has expired.
Thanks for your time.
Mr. Fish, thank you very much.
Yep.
And with that, I am next on open forum, so.
Starting at 5.
Yeah, bring your phone.
You're not. Okay. Starting at howdy. Oh, now we will, yeah, you know, thank you.
Well, how does that?
Nothing.
I wanted to come here in a form of follow-up, Mr. Fish, really quick and kind of talk about the discussions we've been having with the Rules and Regulations Committee, of which myself and Chair Sonka, as well as Vice President of Municipal Affairs Beckerman, and a couple other people sit on. And basically, we're revising the university excused absence rule. And I want to echo a couple points he made, and that's first that we have this absence sheet that you can essentially fill out and send to your professor, which not many professors accept. That is basically stating, on my Aggie honor, I was sick. Not very many professors accept that. They want you to go to Bugle. So this is how I view the issue from the student perspective. You have two types of students who are going to Bugle. You have one that is not really sick and wants to get out of their test, their attendance, whatever. And then you have the second person, and that person is genuinely sick and may or may not need medical care. Both, in the instance of the first person who's lying and trying to get out of the test, this person will go to the doctor and lie to the doctor, which is a waste of our student health services fee. To be quite honest, because they either lie to the doctor or they lie to the professional. And then the second person, I guess there's three. The second person goes to the doctor and they need medical care. And so that person, it's a good use of student health fee money. The third person is a person who is going to the doctor just for a checkup to get their note. That is also waste of student health services money, because they should just be able to say on their Aggie honor that they are sick and tell the professor. There's no, it should be left up to the professor for this reason. Doctors are not, they're there to say what type of illness you have after listening to you describe your symptoms, etc. They're not there to say, yes, you can attend class, or no, you can't attend class. It's simply not their job. It's not something they can determine, because it's an individual basis for each person. It should be up to professors, where you can send something in to the professor, say, I was sick, this is what was wrong with me, and please be excused. And in the Student Rules and Regulations Committee meeting, I would even say that I advocate for students being able to say on their Aggie honor code, on their Aggie honor, that they are sick and they should be excused. In the instance of large classes, almost all those classes already have makeup days, test exams listed. And so I don't see it as an issue. I think this is a great thing. I think it's very pro-student. I don't know if Faculty Senate will like it, but we advocate for students.
Now start a period of question and answer during the Senator Rios.
Senator Rios on campus. Permission to preface?
Yeah.
So if I'm understanding it correctly, the reason we don't need these notes is because the notes are not a verification of illness. They're just a doctor's interpretation of listening to you. And because the professors are doing the same thing, and also because the professors don't have to accept the notes, that it's just a total waste of time to have the notes. We should just rely on the Aggie honor code and so on. Is that correct?
Yes, and so by invoking our Aggie honor instead of a medical professional who is required to believe what you say, we're wasting a lot of student health fee dollars.
Chairman.
Withdraw.
Senator Dane.
So person to preface quickly. Yeah. Do you think that by taking away the need for a medical excuse, people who skip class are going to go lie? Some of them are hindered from skipping class because they have to get a note to begin with. Do you think that by taking away the necessity of the note altogether, more people will take advantage of the system and skip just to lie? I think it will become more of an issue.
So that's a possibility. However, you also have to look at, on the flip side of the coin, the other people who are extremely ill and throwing up and have to drag themselves to the doctor. So you are increasing that. However, you're also alleviating this burden of the people who are actually sick. And I believe Aggies, in general, do not lie to get out of tests. We have an Aggie honor code, we're an exceptional student body, and it may increase slightly, but I don't think it will increase. The increase warrants, you have two factors at play. the people who have to drag themselves in, they're sick, and the people who would lie to get out of test. By removing that barrier, you may increase the people who lie to get out of test, but you're also alleviating the inconvenience of the person who is trying to go in and is actually sick and throwing up and has to take the bus, get up, feel sick, and everything like that.
And with that, we will close the period of Q&A, and we will now move forward to old business. Thank you.
Thank you, absolutely. All right, we'll now move on to emergency legislation, SB 6872, the Excused Absence Reform Bill. If the, yes. If the presenters could please come forward. Wayne, if you can't add one, you can add yourself to this sponsor.
Yeah, I believe it's an author. Anyways, while we're trying to track him down, how do you say it? So this is the original one that Chair Sonka wrote, and basically it's the bill, pretty much what Dr. Fish was just advocating for. He actually gave me a revised version that he looked over. He kind of made some changes on his own. So basically, after this presentation, we'll be presenting an amendment, but basically, you guys can read here, it asks for exactly what he said, just changing the student rules, so we're not required to get a doctor's note. Basically, it's, the 3-day line is the distinction that he made over whether someone's in a car accident or has the flu or this and that, like legit illnesses that you're going to be out for 1 to 3 days. Those are things that you're still going to need a doctor's note for. But it's just like you mentioned, like if you have like a quick cold or something minor like that, that's basically it. I guess I have the questions.
Are there any questions for the presenter? Yes, Mr. Riojas.
Senator Riojas on campus. So is the intent of this bill to guarantee that if a student contacts a professor that they'll get an absence? And if so, or if not, could the last sentence of the change be interpreted as a guarantee of receiving an excused absence?
So the intent of the bill is not to guarantee it. It just moves the burden of the decision over to the professor. It's kind of the professor decides whether or not to take the student's word instead of the doctor. Unfortunately, there's some professors out there that don't, but I don't think that. And I don't know, Aaron, you've been on those meetings more with the nod of head. Is that accurate?
Can't be recognized right now.
With the nod of head, okay. Yeah, and so Aaron's not going to know a lot more about this than myself, but from my understanding, the intent of it is not to guarantee it, but to make the burden on the professor and make the decision and justify whether or not it's a legit excuse.
All right, we'll now go to Pro Tem Dean.
Pro Tem Dean off campus, can you just explain, I guess, or why this is an emergency piece of legislation and what exactly that means to the body?
It is emergency legislation because Chair Sonka wrote the agenda, and I do not know the answer to why he put it on to emergency legislation.
What information?
Yes, Pro Tem Dean.
Pro Tem Dean off campus, can you explain to the body what emergency legislation means?
Emergency legislation is legislation that is being introduced for the first time and will be passed on its introduction. Usually, things are introduced as new business and then go to committee and then old business. So this bill will never see committee. And additionally, a piece of emergency legislation requires a 2/3 threshold to pass. And that is basically what emergency legislation is. It's usually used for time-sensitive matters. The reason that it was written as emergency legislation is because the meeting at which the student rules and regulations the Texas A&M University Student Rules and Regulations Committee meeting will take place sooner than we can take it to committee and then back to the floor and pass it. So that meeting where they decide this issue will be within the next 2 weeks, essentially.
Thank you.
And now we have Chair Hood.
Chair Hood, Finance. If this permission,
Yes, sir.
if this bill were to pass,
then the sole determination of whether or not a student is there or not would be based completely on the ID honor code. So unless there's extenuating circumstances, very severe illnesses, etc. Is there currently precedents for students actually in the ID Honor Council who have gotten caught for doing this and who have experienced the expulsion or other penalties that happen with the violation of the ID Honor Code? Are you aware of that?
To the second part of your question, I'm not aware if there is precedent for this. But to bring back to the first point, like Dr. Fish mentioned, student health services will still give excuses. It's just taking out of student rules for professors to require it. So if a student really is sick, they come to the professor says, no, you're not sick, they still will have the opportunity to go to student health services, but it takes away the requirement. So there's not, a million students in line there for no reason other than just to get a note signed when it's relatively unnecessary.
Great. Thank you.
We'll now go to Senator Kubyar.
First and preface. I'm gonna throw a wrench in your plans or anything, but I just talked to Dr. Tannenbaum, who worked on some stuff, and she didn't seem aware that it was being passed tonight. I think she thought that y'all have more time to work with him on this. You did say you were bringing those amendments.
Yes.
Later.
So I guess to answer your question, there was a question there. So Dr. Fish kind of looked over it, and I think he might have looked over it with Dr. Tannenbaum. I'm not sure, but he gave me a revised version of the bill right here that upon, the 20% amendment, I'm going to basically do an amendment for it to be changed the way he wants to see it written. Hopefully that makes it easier for Butyl and student rules and everything to be more, kind of more, without going to the committee process, still a, official, well-written bill.
Awesome, thanks.
We'll now go to Senator Paz.
Senator Paz on campus, how do you expect professors to take this bill?
So again, in conversation with Dr. Fish, a lot of professors are against it. As you can understand why. One proponent of it is Bob Schauser, who's Speaker of the Faculty Senate. This is someone who at least has some positive influence, but again, our role isn't to advocate for the professors, what they want. This is student government. It's faculty's job to advocate for them. So this is something that'd be a benefit to the students. And yeah, it might be more work on professors, but overall, again, we're here to advocate for students.
We'll now go to Senator Hutton.
Senator Hutton, off-campus Caucus. Can you talk to us about how this would relate with mandatory attendance policies that are maintained by some of the colleges?
Well, it's either somewhere on this amendment. Actually, it's not an amendment. Basically, I think it was in his presentation that he said, it's moving the responsibility to the particular colleges to determine absences instead of the university student rules. So if you listen, or not if you listen, I know you listen, but like at one point in the presentation, he mentioned it's either colleges or professors that, again, that moves the burden of proof to. And so it's not going to be perfect. There's still certain colleges that, will have these rules, but it takes that out of the overall student rules. Did I answer your question?
I'll go to Senator.
Same type of question. Most of these policies are dictated by financial aid. What authority will changing the student rule give both faculty and students to tell financial aid, like, look, this is my own attendance policy?
Just like Dr. Fish, I honestly don't know the answer to that question. And if there's anyone that does know the answer to that question that might serve on the Student Rules and Regulations Committee, could maybe step up and debate for and answer some of these questions. But I don't know any of that.
Are there any other questions for the presenter? Yes, Senator Turner.
Senator Turner, off campus. Question, how is it going to affect any other legislation that might change the student rule set? Or will it just affect the sickness policy?
So the amendment here is actually, basically saying for Student Senate to advocate for the changes the Rules and Regulations Subcommittee are working on right now. So in that committee, there's already the process going on, and this bill is just the student instead of supporting the changes that they're making. And so, the language, I don't know the exact language of it. Again, I hope someone will get up and specify that. But this bill is basically to support the things that they're doing in that rules and regulations subcommittee.
Awesome, thanks.
Senator Hutton.
Senator Hutton, off Kansas Caucus, permission to preference.
Yes, ma'am.
So according to the student rules, section 7, subsection 1, subsection 6, subsection 1, where it talks about illness or injury of more than 3 days, it currently states, it's subsection 2, not subsection 1. But it currently states that it is at the discretion of the faculty member or academic department standard as outlined in the course syllabus. And then it goes on. But there's no longer in this new bill going to be any discretion left to the academic department or course, as you kind of stated in your last answer to my question. So is that something you're willing to amend so that it will be up to that academic department? Or is that kind of contrary to the point of the bill in general?
I don't know if I fully understand your question, but with that, because this is emergency legislation, it's open to any amendments that anyone wants to present. I mean, if we're skipping committee meeting, an amendment is an amendment, and that's kind of why we have the opportunity to amend it here on the floor. So I don't quite understand what you're asking specifically, but as far as open to amendments, yes, it is open to amendments.
Are there any other questions? Yes, Senator Ferguson.
Senator Ferguson, Geosciences. So in the bill's current state, does this only affect notes from Butyl, or is it notes from any doctor's office in College Station?
I don't know the answer to that question.
All right, seeing no other questions, we'll move into a period of debate, and I'll recognize myself for debate against. Hey, can you take a chair? Speaker Mitchell on campus. So first of all, I'm going to go ahead and propose this amendment, and I wanted to address a few things. So first of all, what the senator from off campus was just speaking about, this idea that there will no longer be discretion of the faculty. That is not the part that they're trying to amend. So they're only amending subsection 1, which is the part that essentially says they have to accept this or this. It would strike that and make it basically to where a student could, it basically makes it to where each faculty member may have their own policy, and they could require a note if they wanted to, or they could, do whatever. But it basically gives the authority to the faculty, and it makes it to where they don't have to accept those two options. That you can go to them and say, I'm sick, you know me, I would want you, etc. And so, anyways, there are a couple other things I wanted to address, but I think I'm just going to go ahead and propose this amendment, Madam Speaker.
Yes.
It should be on the computer.
Do you email it?
Yeah, same as.
Hold on, we're waiting on a pencil because you took that with you. Maybe. You have an email? Email. We're getting there. It should already be up if you just go to Drive. And we don't have the email. Was it, is it from?
No, it's same. We pulled it off the driver. And additionally to what's on the drive, I'd like to make Dr. Pugh, Marty Young, Karen Watson, all send tos, as well as Dr. James T. Fish, Mr. James T. Fish, Associate Director of Student Health Services. Yes. And Wayne Beckerman as an all. So I now debate for mine. Yes. Speaker Mitchell off campus. So basically what this amendment does is it takes out whereas for and puts a little bit nicer language in terms of what we want to do, and that's basically that we support amending student rule number 7 in the ongoing work with student representatives on the Rules and Regulations Subcommittee, work to revise the current student attendance rule to restore the Aggie Honor Code in regards to requesting excused absences resulting from short-term illnesses or injuries with less than 3 days. So basically what we're saying is we support students and we support invoking the Aggie Honor Code and these less than 3 day absences. I would invite you all, there's an email sent out by Chair Sonka, there's an article on there called the Ethical Methodology with Medical Excuse Notes. I'd invite all of you to read that or skim over it very quickly if you'd like. But essentially that is, it's basically common practice and commonplace now for illnesses or injuries less than 3 days to be able to, say that you're sick instead of having to waste all of our money and go to student health services and either you lie to a doctor or you lie to a professor fake news. So anyways, yield the floor to my amendment.
Okay, the floor has been yielded to. Will now recognize debate against the amendment. Against the amendment, seeing debate one-sided, we will now vote on the amendment. All in favor of passing this amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And that amendment will be passed. Sam, can you email that out, please? Make sure they can please read it. We will now, you don't have 4 minutes left on presenting debate against.
Yield the floor.
Floor has been yielded to. We will now recognize debate for the bill. Debate for. Anybody want to debate for the bill?
Rios.
Rios.
Senator Rios on campus. I think this is a pretty simple bill. Basically, all we're doing is we're just advocating for the changes that rules and regulations make. We're not actually saying when we pass this bill, oh, it's going to happen, the rules and regulations, I mean, the student rules will actually be changed. We're just advocating for the changes. Can we pull up the newly updated? Oh, there we go. I mean, y'all can see it's just one, therefore let it be known. I think it's very simple. We're just advocating that the rules and regulations continue to do what they're continuing to do. I don't think it's a particularly big problem to have a previous question.
Previous question has been moved. We have multiple seconds. All in favor of moving previous question, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? With that passes. We will now take a vote on the bill. All in favor of passing the excused absence reform bill, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And with that, the bill passes. Okay.
Thank you very much, Pro Tem Dean. We'll now move on to old business item 2, SB 6874, the Private Information Security Bill. If the bill authors please come forward, we'll have yes.
Chair Page, Acting Affairs, I move to table the bill indefinitely.
A motion to table the bill indefinitely has been made and seconded, which debatable or something. Which is a debatable motion. Is there any debate against this motion? Yes.
Senator Rudd, non-campus caucus, point of personal preference. Will you please restate the name of this bill so we can look it up?
Yes, ma'am. It is the Private Information Security Bill. So is there any debate against the table? Seeing none, yes, Chair Hood.
Chair Hood, Finance, I just want to hear why we're tabling this, so debating against, just so we can hear.
We are now going to debate forward. Chair Page.
Chair Page, Acting Affairs. I was going to mention this in my committee report, if not, but this is a bill that I wrote in response to something that happened over spring break. Thursday morning, most of you guys who have Android phones probably received something saying you have to download this device policy management app in order to continue using your TAMO email accounts on your phone. Well, I went ahead, since I know we didn't have a whole lot of time before submitting legislation for this meeting, I wrote something up and I sent it. At the same time, I sent an email to IT. Well, not 4 or 5 minutes ago, they replied to me resolving the issue, doing exactly what the bill would have asked them to do, which was look into it, figure out if it was a security breach or if it was something they did on purpose, and then fix it and then notify students. So what they did was they did exactly that. It fixed the issue, which was an accident on Google's part. Google made a new policy that was accidentally applied to our domain. They contacted them, fixed it, it's no longer applied to our domain, and they posted a news bulletin on their IT website. So the bill is no longer relevant, and I don't think we need to. And I yield my time to the floor.
Floor has been yielded to. Is there any debate against? Well, I debate against. Yes, Chair. Senator Clark.
Ad hoc Chair Clark on campus. One thing why I'm I guess debating against it, you put in the bill that an email would be sent out to each and every student. I would kind of like that to still happen, even though there's some post on their, I guess, their page. So I don't know what we can do about that, but I would still like email to send out to all students.
Are you yielding your time?
I yield my time.
All right, and we'll now go to debate 4. Is there any debate 4? I can't recognize you twice. We'll go to Senator Rosine.
I yield my time to Senator Pitts.
Seeing none of that is in order.
All right, Chair Page, Academic Affairs. I'm just going to say, yes, you can go ahead and pass this if you'd like, and to formally request the email. Either way, I'm going to send them an email back in the next 4 or 5 minutes asking them if they would blast an email to everybody. I highly doubt that'll be an issue with them. But by all means, if you'd like to pass this, that's totally fine. I just think it's kind of a waste of time at this point. With that, I move previous question.
Previous question has been moved, and is there a second? There's a second. All in favor of moving to previous question, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. That passes unanimously. We'll now move into a period of voting. Yes. We'll now move to a period of voting on the motion to postpone indefinitely. All in favor of postponing indefinitely, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. As the chair, that passes unanimously. We'll now move into, yes, Chair, President Dean.
President Dean, off campus, I have a motion.
Yes, ma'am.
I move to deviate from the agenda, swearing senators have not been sworn in yet.
Motion to deviate from the agenda to swear in new senators has been made and duly seconded. All in favor of doing so, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. That passed unanimously. If we could please have any senators who have not been sworn in yet. If you haven't taken, we have a little oath of office deal.
Oh, no.
Haven't done that yet, please come to the board. And we will go to Jester. Please stand.
I state your name. Do solemnly swear.
Do solemnly swear.
To faithfully execute to the best of my ability.
To faithfully execute to the best of my ability.
The duties of the office of, state your office.
To the duties of the office of off-campus senator.
For the Texas A&M University Student Government Association.
To the Texas A&M University Student Government Association.
To uphold the honor of the same.
To uphold the honor of the same.
At all times to protect the welfare of the student body.
At all times to protect the welfare of the student body.
And to promote good relations.
And to promote good relations.
Between the students.
Between the students.
And those concerned with the university.
And those concerned with the university.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes, Chair Lander.
Chair Lander, Legislative Affairs. I move to deviate the agenda into a period of consideration for SB 6847, the Good Samaritan Law.
A motion to deviate from the agenda to go to SB 6848, the Good Samaritan Resolution, has been made and seconded. All in favor of doing so, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. That passed unanimously. So to fill the body in on what's happening right now, we had the Good Samaritan law bill last meeting, and we took a vote to previous question, which passed unanimously, but we never actually voted on the bill. So we are, in our minutes reflected that. I know as a point of contention, we decided that we had voted on the bill and moved on. So now we'll move into a period of voting on the bill, unless there are any motions to reopen presentation or anything like that. But with that, we'll move into a period of voting on SB 6840. 6847, the Good Samaritan Law Bill. All in favor of passing SB 6847, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. And it passes. We will now move to SB 6867, the 12-man bus bill. If the authors could please come forward, they will have 15 minutes beginning at now.
Well, howdy, Senate.
Howdy.
Currently, the number 12 bus is named Reveille, and the number 6 bus is named the 12th Man. It just doesn't make any sense. I don't know why somebody would do this in the first place. I think it contributes to chaos. So with that being said, this bill right here is going to ask the Transportation Services Department to just kindly swap the names over the summer. And so, it can bring balance to Texas A&M University. The upcoming
What he said. Are you leaving time?
Are you my time?
All right, thank you very much. Are there any questions for the presenters? Seeing none, thank you very much. We will now move into a period of debate. Is there any debate against this bill? Yes. Chair Carlson.
Chair Caucus, Student Services. I love this bill. I guess it's just an opportunity to give some student services news that I was going to mention my committee report. So I talked to Peter Lang about the last name change bill, and basically what he said was the meeting back in February to come up with the names of the new routes, which still need to be presented to the body. I can send out an email with the list because I don't know if they're ever going to show up. But he said that that was the procedure to change for the 2016-2017 route names. So the bill that I wrote a couple weeks ago, that's not going to happen, and this one will happen this year. We can still definitely pass it, but they'll have to bring it to the floor once the TSAC meets in the 16-17 school year. So it wouldn't be able to be passed until 17-18 school year when it go into effect, but we can definitely still send it through. I just wanted to kind of let y'all know the status that unfortunately we're not going to see this change in August when we come back. I yield to the floor.
Floor has been yielded. Is there any debate for the bill? Seeing none, the debate is one-sided. We'll move to a period of voting. All in favor of passing SB 6867, the 12th man bus bill, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
The ayes of the chair, that passes. We will now move into a period of voting presentation for SB 6868, the election regulations reform. If the authors could please come forward. 15 minutes ahead.
Hi, Senate.
So,
in the past, the election regulations have not been updated in the spring. They've only been updated between the fall and the spring elections. And I think that's kind of silly because right now we're at a point that we've seen what issues and obstacles we face in the spring elections. So I think it's important that we address those now and not have a new election commissioner come in and face the same obstacles I did without any experience. And so the purpose of this bill is just to address the little things that I think need to be updated in the regulations. So nothing super huge. I'm just going to walk you through some of the changes in the regulations. A lot of it's grammatical stuff, making everything match the regulations. So now in the regulations, it'll specify class agent teams. They were never addressed previously. Now it basically says class agent teams need to contact the association to get the rules before contacting me. And additionally, mandatory candidates meetings will no longer require a university excused reason. This year it fell on Valentine's Day, which sucks, I know. And so in the future, if a candidate has to miss the mandatory candidates meeting, they just need to let the commissioner know and send a proxy. They still get all the information. They're still required for everything. I just think it's silly to make somebody have a university excused reason for a meeting that they could get the information for. Otherwise, they would still have to have somebody there either way. Regulations now address campaign retreats. They always happen. They've never been addressed in the regulations before. The regulations would now just say they can start happening during the pre-election period, which is any time before a candidate files. So it just says, yes, they can happen, and anything that occurs there has to be expensed. So the same thing that happens right now, it's just in regulations. Regulations would state when car talk is allowed. Last semester we passed and said yes, it was allowed. However, there was no dates assigned to it because they were exempt from regulations. Now, the regulations would just say during the pre-campaign period, which is immediately after the mandatory candidates meeting, you can start using card talk. All it does is define when you can use it rather than saying it's a free-for-all kind of thing. And regulations will add outside of Wayner to a modified campaigning location. I think it's somewhere that's high traffic and it was beneficial. And right now, regulations say that you cannot wear a t-shirt to a debate, which I think is silly and hard to believe. Changing Rudder Complex to just Rudder Building, so now candidates can campaign at Rudder Fountain, just not inside the building. And changing the regulation that states candidates cannot email organizations to schedule a meeting. Prior to right now, it was right after the mandatory candidates meeting. I'm changing that to state 2 weeks prior to the mandatory candidates meeting. Just so they can email an organization and say, hey, can I talk to you in 2 weeks instead of, hey, can I talk to you tomorrow? I think that makes it easier on everybody. And those of you that were involved in campaigns this year saw that I kept a spreadsheet online of all reported violations, as well as my decision on them, why I decided that many evidence. And now I have written it into this bill that that must be kept by future election commissioners. I think that was That's basically all the big changes. There's not anything super huge. A few things that were corrected that were missed last semester. For example, there was one example in the regulations that contradicted a rule. We just made that example match and little things like that. I'm happy to answer any questions you guys may have. There's not a lot of subject.
Before we take questions, it's just a big pleasure to be on this bill with Callie. I want to give her a lot of credit. These are the smoothest elections we've managed on. Without room for questions.
All right, excellent. I'm actually going to recognize myself first. How are campaign retreats defined in the?
They're not defined. It'd be the same way as campaigning that's left to the discretion of the commissioner. It just states that they can be held off campus, not on campus. So basically it's the same thing that happens right now. But it would be left to the discretion of the election commissioner.
Okay, I'll go check it.
Chairman of Finance, permission to preface.
Yes, sir.
I just want to echo Carlos and thank you for running the election system. The question is actually along those lines is because we are the body who confirms election commissioners. For future reference, what do you think are things that we need to be looking for in an election commissioner based on your experience and where you came from?
That's a good question. I think it's important that you guys just be open-minded and trust that anybody that applies for this position is doing it for the right reason. Nobody's going to throw themselves into this position not being dedicated to it. I will sit down with whoever it is that shows up for this position and they will know the requirements of it. They will get every document that I created, every guide that I created. They will have the phone number of me and every commission member that I have. And so I just want you guys to trust that whoever's up in front of you is here because they have the heart to do it. And so that would be my biggest advice in that.
Thank you.
We'll go to ad hoc Chair Clark.
Ad hoc Chair Clark. So you talked about allowing T-shirts at the debates, which I love that. It's just on that. Will it just be T-shirts or will backpack tags and everything else be allowed?
So backpack tags were not addressed in the regulations prior to right now. It specifically states campaigning could not occur within the area of the debate, which was to include holding banners, wearing T-shirts. And it states a few other things that are obviously campaigning. So I just struck T-shirts from that. Backpack tags were never addressed together.
Awesome. Thank you.
We'll go to Senator Rizzi.
Senator Rosine, Caucus Science, permission to preface.
Yes, sir.
Your elections ran really smoothly, and we've had issues with how smoothly they've run in the past. Do you think that's something that you did, or is like that versus what previous election commissioners have done, or do you think it's just kind of how the elections went this time?
I think you never know what can happen until it does happen. So there's not a whole lot of ways to prepare for an IT issue, for example. After going through the election commissioner, some of the issues that had happened previously, I would not have thought to look for, honestly. Until I've seen that, oh wait, that's something that can happen. We need to add that to the list of things to check for. So I definitely can't take all the credit, and you just don't know the issues that come up until they come up, which is one reason why I wanted to address the regulations now. Just so that the election commissioner after me knows everything that I faced, knows how I handled it, how I would handle it if it happened again, and so that they can learn. I definitely learned from mistakes prior to me, and I think that the next election commissioner will do the same.
Are there any other questions for our presenters? Seeing none, thank you very much. We'll now move into a period of debate. Is there any debate against SB 6868, the Election Regulations Reform Act? Seeing none, debate is one-sided. We'll move into a period of voting. All in favor of approving SB 6868, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, please say nay. That passes unanimously. We'll now move into a period of voting on SB 6869, the Student Pedestrian Safety Augmentation Act. If the presenters could please come forward, we'll have 15 minutes beginning at.
Okay, we'll do it live. Howdy, Senate.
Howdy.
Okay, so, kind of put it all together real quick. We are asking the city of College Station to consider putting a crosswalk right across from the Woodlands on Southwest Parkway. There was a previous bill that asked to catalyze crosswalk improvement. However, it really wasn't specific enough to create the change that it wanted to create. So we got very specific. So specific that I actually had a jump drive, an aerial map that described where the crosswalk would be and pictures of students crossing the road through traffic in order to get to their bus from the Woodlands. This crosswalk, this bus stop, really, the area of concern is right across the street from the Woodlands. And so kids, students will literally have to run across and dodge traffic like Frogger in order to get to their bus on the highway. And it's very obvious. If you drive around the area, you will see it. It's really just kind of, it's eligible for disaster. And it's just kind of waiting for it to happen. I have heard, I think you have been told this, or Kate told me, Kate's sick right now, so that's why she's not here. But she told me that College Station has already considered putting something there. So really, the ratification of this bill would really just kind of support College Station's plan on doing this. With that, I yield my time unless you have anything.
Yeah, so just piggyback real quick off what Clark said. Had lunch with the city traffic engineer. This is a project that they had planned. It just wasn't allocated money to the budget process. We're going to go to city council tomorrow and show them this and explain that this is an important thing. We have a few other, there's a few other areas of concern that we're working on. Senator Langston has been incredibly awesome in contacting the city and staying on top of this, staying on top of me, and pointing out areas of concern where we have students going back and forth. So she's paying attention. If you guys have any other traffic-related concerns like this, I would reach out to her. Clark's been awesome too, so we're going to go up in front of the city council tomorrow and talk about this.
You have a motion? Yes, sir.
Point of personal privilege, can we see the actual map since you have the flash right here?
We'll
just put it in there. It's the only file that's on.
So you can see here, here you can see students that are in the process of crossing the road. You can see a car here. That's where they originated from in this area. So you can see that there's at least 20 feet of danger zone here. And so when you go to the next one, Right here is Hungry Howie's. This is where the bus stop is, and in a perfect world, these are where the Woodlands is right here. And in a perfect world, the crosswalk would be somewhere here or in this general area. So.
We'll now go back to questions, and I'll recognize myself. You mentioned that Senator Langston was sick. Did she provide any type of documentation?
I trusted her Aggie honors, so.
Are there any other questions? Yes, sure, Senator.
Senator Turner, engineering, can you diagnose, just to clarify, it would be a crosswalk, not a stop sign or anything like that?
We're asking for a crosswalk.
Okay, so.
Right, and I don't really believe that a stop sign is necessary. If you've driven down Southwest Parkway, there's quite a high volume. You don't want to do any, make it more difficult than that.
We'll now go to Senator Emmons.
Mr. President?
Yes, sir.
Well, I actually need to ask a question. Village is also in that same vicinity?
If you would like me to make an amendment that includes Campus Village into the bill, I'd be happy to do so.
Yes, sir.
Campus Village uses a little tiny charter to get their residents from Campus Village to the other side of the road. Is there any? It's utilized on both. I don't know what those potential options could be for the Woodlands to hop in the game, keeping their residents safe as well.
Well, I don't really know how to answer that question.
I mean, the reason the crosswalk is proposed here is because this is the city's already done a traffic study. They already have data. They have traffic counts, and there is a proposal to put a crossing path here. There's just in budget reality, you had to move money other places. So this is already something that's been planned, and we're just bringing it back up to the Southwest list.
All right, we'll now go to Senator Mendoza.
Hi, Senator Mendoza off campus. Just a quick question. So I'm not sure if you've mentioned it, but do you kind of know what type of crosswalk would be implemented there? I mean, there's multiple ones like yield for pedestrians or just like simple striking the road, and that would affect traffic.
Right. I would imagine that College Station knows the most about this, and that they would take our, I guess, soft demand, no better word for it, soft demand for this, quest, and that they would just adhere to it as best as they possibly could while noting the variables of traffic and safety.
Yeah, so city has two traffic engineers that have the PhDs and everything, and they know exactly how, based on what traffic counts, based on what type of foot traffic you're getting, what specific type of crosswalk you need, whether you need a person there with the little stop sign like you have for little kids, whether you need a full-on crosswalk with, lights up at night and stuff. So the traffic engineers will be able to determine that. This is just urging them to really relook at this.
Cool. Thank you.
We'll now go to Senator Luce.
Senator Luce, Glover Arts. Just looking at your map, it seems like it'd be an easier and safer route to just go through transportation services and request that they move the bus line through the Woodlands. Has that possibility or that idea crossed within question 2 transportation services?
No, it has not.
Yeah, so it's actually really difficult to do that. From what I've been told, the city has engaged them before about doing this at other spots, and that takes a lot more effort than it does, because like I said, this is already a project that they researched out, and in this specific case, it's easier for us to just encourage them to put money and fix this through this route than it is for transportation services to have to move their bus routes along. I don't understand the whole back channel, how that works, but from what I've been told, this would probably be the path of least resistance, even though it seems like the other way would work more. This is apparently the path that would work best.
Yes, sir.
It also appears that it would be a safer route, because then you would be encouraging students to stay within where they already live, rather than having to venture across a 45-mile-an-hour road.
I agree with you. There's just a gap of logic there between what's feasible and what they're willing to, and how much they're willing to bend. That's something we can bring up again at the next TSAC meeting and kind of put that out there and push that again. But from what I've been told so far, that the moving in the bus route, they like it where it's at, and that's not for them.
Senator Evans with 3 minutes and 57 seconds.
Yeah, this, information.
Yes, sir.
Can I address this question?
No, you can't. Are there any other questions? Seeing none, thank you all very much. We'll now move into a period of debate. Is there any debate against this bill? Yes, Senator Evans. You'll have
On campus, I just want to address this question. There's no way buses can maybe get in there and then get back out. That's coming from somebody who drives buses. I don't think you can make that turn. The route also sucks.
and time has been yielded. Is there any debate for? Seeing none, debate is one-sided. Now moving to period of voting. All in favor of passing SB 6869, the Pedestrian Safety Augmentation Act, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, please say nay. That passes unanimously. We'll now move into period of voting on presentation on SB 6870, the Lot 50 upkeep bill. If the authors could please come forward, they'll have 15 minutes beginning at half.
Howdy, Ted.
Howdy.
This is a pretty simple bill. If you remember from last time, it's something that I was approached by a constituent to write, and she was unable to make it. So basically what it is Lot 50 is a large parking lot in the northeast corner of campus near the engineering buildings. And it's riddled with potholes and very uneven ground, and it's just an unpleasant driving experience. And I'd say this is an extreme case if you compare it to most other lots on campus. Also, this is a lot where we have a lot of tailgating, and we rent tailgating spots for campers and that during football season. So it's a high visibility area for a lot of people. This bill is just asking that the university evaluate this lot over the summer, and if there is room in the budget to start repaving small sections of it, at least to, or at least being aware that there is a problem, to go ahead and do so. I think that pretty much sums it up. With that, I'll open the questions.
Are there any questions for the Senator? Yes, Senator Lewis.
Senator Lewis, Liberal Arts. Lot 50 is adjacent to the administration building?
No, I believe you're thinking 54. Lot 50 is right next to ETB, if you know where that is, Engineering Technology Building. It's kind of like right behind that, or I guess east of, like way east of Zachary. If you go east of Zachary, you'll hit ETB, and then you'll hit Lot 50. You're the polo fields.
Are there any other questions? Seeing none, thank you very much. We'll now move to period of voting. Is there any debate against this bill? Seeing none, debate is one-sided. We will now move into a period of voting on SB 6870. All in favor of approving SB 6870, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, please say nay. That passes unanimously. We will now move into a period of presentation for SB 6871, the informed officer. For the presenter to this report, we'll have 15 minutes beginning at half.
Howdy, Senate. This bill is a pretty simple bill. We've had a bunch of different options for how to reform the bylaws and like different officer positions within Senate to make sure we get our development of new senators. And I took the simplest way I would know how, and I added three new duties to the Rules and Regulations Chair. As the Chief Enforcer of the bylaws, I felt it the easiest way to fix the issues that we've seen with people knowing what their duties are is where I saw the biggest issues is there are so many duties outlined within the bylaws that we needed to fix that. And so the first one is, the first duty would be upon any exacto officer like the Development Commission within Senate. The Rules and Regulations Chair would just sit down and say, hey, just so you know, these are your duties, and the same thing for any of the officers that we choose. And then I also decided that there are also some duties within other branches, especially the executive branch, that may get overlooked from time to time, so I included them within this bill. And then the last one is just saying that it's also the duty to make sure these jobs get done by, it's the Rules and Regulations Committee, or committee chair, to make sure these jobs get done. Pretty simple. It was kind of my idea of the most simple fix for this, rather than rearranging who has what duties and how duties are selected and stuff. So with that, I yield the floor for questions.
All right, I'll use a question for myself. Would you be amenable to, on subpoint X there, make it say something along the lines of disseminate all necessary information of duties required in the SJ code to executive branch members? So basically that, because commissioners and officers, you also have committee chairs, you have things like that. Would you be amenable to maybe proposing an amendment like that?
Yeah.
Okay. Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you very much. We'll now move to a period of debate. We'll begin with debate against. I'll go ahead and debate against and propose an amendment.
Please state your amendment.
My amendment would change subsection X there, to say disseminate all necessary information of duties, of the required duties to the respected, duties required by the SGA code to the respective members of the executive branch.
Is there a second to hear this amendment? Multiple seconds. We'll go ahead and move into a period of debate against the amendment. We'll move into a period of debate for the amendment, starting with Speaker Mitchell.
Speaker Mitchell off campus. Basically, the reason I'm proposing this is essentially so that you send it to all members of the executive branch, their required duties, instead of sending it only to commissioners and officers. I think that was the intent, but it's just a little bit more airtight wording.
The floor has been yielded to. Is there any debate against the amendment? Seeing none, debate has been ruled one-sided. We'll now move into a period of voting on the amendment. All in favor of passing the amendment to change the bill as read, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, please say nay. In the ears of the chair, that passes unanimously.
I yield to the floor. Is there any debate for the bill? Seeing none, debate is one-sided. We'll now move to a period of voting. All in favor of approving SB 6871, the informed officer bill as amended, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, please say nay. That passes unanimously. We'll now move to a period of new business, beginning with SB 6873, the solar tax bus stoppage bill. If the authors could please come forward, they'll have 15 minutes to be happy.
All right.
Yes.
I have a motion. Oh, I have a point. Point of information.
Yes, sir.
So if you pass up the bill that says supports establishing an online safety zone,
that was not included on the agenda. It may have already been.
Well, the one I got.
Are you talking about 6874?
68, 67. That's what it was on the agenda I got.
So the agenda I have has SB 6872, which we passed and amended, SB 6874, which we tabled indefinitely, 68, 67, 12-minute bus bill was passed, election regs, student possession, pedestrian and safety augmentation act, lot 50 upkeep bill, informed officer bill, and that was all for old business. So, sorry, I'm not aware of that either. I didn't put together the agenda this time because I was in DC. So, do you have a point? Yes. Seconded. All in favor of allowing him to address that question, please say aye. Aye. Let's just say nay.
Senators, the board calls you.
Life Science. That bill was something that Wayne and I came up with earlier. It was suggesting that the university support the use of online transaction zones. The city has already moved forward with that, and they were a step ahead of us, so it's not really necessary anymore.
Okay, very well. So it was withdrawn from the agenda. That being said, thank you for your concern, and we will now move on to 6873, 15 minutes at Howdy.
Hi, Sid. All right, so this bill came to mind, and it's actually been a bill that I've been meaning to write for some time. Senator Flavin and I had a conversation about this a couple months ago, actually. And it came to be because I noticed that when I went to Silver Taps, one of the things that happened that could disturb the ambiance, could disturb the sacredness of that tradition, if you will, are there's actually sometimes buses that drive by on, I believe that's Lamar Street. There's Houston and Lamar.
Yeah.
And I think that it would be an interesting proposition to ask that the university suspend buses going down those two roads during Silver Taps, during the time of Silver Taps, when there's a Silver Taps, the same way that they shut off the lights, the same way they shut off all of the campus operations during that time. And so talked to Senator Flavin, and he agreed, and so now we're before you for this bill.
Are you yielding your time?
Yeah, you'll want that.
Are there any questions? Ad hoc, Chair Clark.
Ad hoc Chair Clark on campus. So Houston Street is the street with the Coke building and
yes, that's Houston
as well.
When I go to Senator Clark.
Senator Krug, off campus caucus. I just wanted to have a point of clarification. When you're saying that you would like for the buses not to pass by the area near Academic Plaza, does that mean you just want to take a detour in the route?
That's why we left that's why I left the language a little bit vague on that point, because to say stop could mean that there are students who might need to get off campus, and we need to leave the option open for them to reroute the buses if need be. If they still need to run those for whatever reason. I thought about just saying stop, period, those bus routes don't run, but I'm not sure how transportation services would take that. So if they can look at rerouting it during that time, that would also be beneficial.
Yes, ma'am.
At this point, do you have any idea like how much additional time that would add to the route, or is this kind of at the beginning level as far as your research?
This is at the beginning level as far as the research goes. And
basically the Silver Taps usually lasts like under 30 minutes, if that. So usually we can try and get everything wrapped up by 11 or so. So we wouldn't have that much time relatively speaking.
Yeah, the buses at that point only run every 30 minutes anyway in the evening. So there's usually only one or two buses that pass by.
Are there any, yes, Senator Blair.
Senator Blair, isn't everyone supposed to be at Silver Taps anyway?
No, I agree. Yes, everyone's supposed to be at Silver Taps.
Are there any other questions? Seeing none, this bill will be referred to the Student Services Committee. We'll now go to SB 6875, the Sports Pass Inclusion Bill. If the authors could please come forward. I don't know if he's here. Oh, page monster. 15 minutes at Howdy.
All right, howdy, Senate.
Howdy.
So, give it where credit is due. This is Garrett Hendricks, Senator Hendricks. It's his idea, it's his bill. I just helped him write it, and I'm definitely in support of it. Essentially, what this bill is recognizing a deficiency in the sports pass. So, I'm sure a lot of you guys are ice hockey fans, right? It's like saying I'm sports fans. How about that? So, and I apologize. I don't have all this right in my head, so I might read a little bit. I wasn't anticipating presenting, but currently the sports pass is $290, and that's quite a lot of money. But then again, you get a lot out of it. You get all the football, and you get a whole lot of other sports too. This is it was recently changed to where it was an all sports pass. So we used to have the football only option for people who want to do that. Now you get all sports, right? Ice hockey is not one of them. Yes, there is a concern. This ice hockey is technically a club sport. So it is possibly a little bit different league as some of the other sports that are included with it. But it's also one of the very few sports that are ticketed. A lot of things such as swinging, diving, equestrian, track and field aren't ticketed sports. You can just go and watch it for free. Ice hockey charges, I believe it's $7.50 every time you want to go watch, which ends up being something like $150 if you want to go see the whole season. On top of the sports pass, which is already $290. This bill is just simply asking that ice hockey be included as one of the sports that you can go see with your all sports pass. I think it's pretty simple from there. And also, just so you guys are aware, ice hockey is one of the few sports that you can still go watch us beat the hell out of TU every year. So, with that, I yield to questions.
All right, first we'll go to Senator Lambert.
Senator Lambert here. Is not hockey a pretty expensive sport that the 12-man foundation doesn't directly support, and wouldn't they rely on those funds from the sales to that? So would there be possibility to include in your bill that the 12-man foundation would fund it, since they are the ones that we buy the sports hockey?
I'm trying to fully understand your question. I'm going to, this is kind of what you're asking. Would there be would I support adding to the bill that this 12-man foundation funds since the players paying a fee to go play ice hockey, that they kind of take up that fee? Yeah. I would be amenable to that. I'm not the original bill author. It will be going to committee. So I recommend that you speak with the bill author about that change. But I don't see a huge issue asking for that, personally.
We'll now go to Chair Carlson, President Dean first.
President Dean, Commissioner Caucus.
Yes, ma'am.
Piggyback off what he said, the hockey boys use part of that money to pay for their dues. So I was wondering if this part of that $296 that we pay them, would the hockey team get a cut of that from the athletic department?
I'd imagine so. Again, sorry, I'm limited knowledge on the issue.
Okay.
Yeah. Chair Carlson.
Chair Carlson, Student Services, first preface.
Yes, sir.
So the sports pass, I don't know the format how they do it, is priced at a point to where, the sports get equal cut, not necessarily equal because some sports bring more revenue than others. And hockey is not one of those sports on that list. They're not, revenue for the university. Would this affect the price in the sports pass to cover the losses that the hockey team would get, or like renting out Spirit Ice Arena, for instance, for each of their games and all of those prices? Would you not need to raise the price of the sports pass to make this happen?
Right. So there's a very good possibility it may require a raise in the sports pass price. I don't know all the financials of it, but I would also say that the sports pass entitles all of us to go to every single one of those games, and I highly doubt that we all utilize that. So I think that there is definitely some play in the what they allocate versus what students actually use already. So it would be imaginable that the people who would actually go and see ice hockey probably wouldn't put a whole lot of additional strain on that, since a lot of us probably don't utilize half of the games that we could go to as it is, and that's additional revenue there. So yes, while it would be possible, I think that there's probably a way to look at it from another angle as well, and maybe not have to increase it.
Chairhead Finance and Commissioner Preface. You might not know this because the bill author is not here, but does the 12th Man Foundation have any jurisdiction over club sports at Texas A&M?
I do not believe so, but I can't say that with certainty.
Great, thank you.
We'll now go to Chair Lambert. Sorry, I must have seen something. Senator Rios. President Dean.
President Dean, Commissioner Preface.
Yes, ma'am.
Again. I know that our sports house covers those that are recognized in sports, but are there any club sports that our sports house covers currently?
Okay, so club sports or sports pass, most club sports are not ticketed. So that's kind of where the disparity is. Most club sports you can just go and watch, and you don't actually have tickets you have to buy to watch, excuse me. All in all, I think there's quite a bit that still needs to be looked at with this, and I will remind everyone this will be going to committee, so this is something you have a lot of questions about or concerns with, or you know more about it than I do. I recommend you go to that committee meeting and help them revise the bill and make it something that will be a lot better than what we currently have here. But to hopefully, yeah, to answer your question, it's just because not many other sports actually have that ticket to get to buy it.
We'll now go to Chair Sanko.
I have a motion. Yes, sir. Chair Soccer rules and regs. I move to close period question and answer.
Motion to close period has been made and seconded. All in favor of closing period question and answer, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. And with that, this bill is referred to the Student Services Committee. Yes. Okay, we'll now move into our consent agenda. We'll be passing SB 6812 and SB 6813 by unanimous consent unless there are any objections. Are there any objections to passing our consent agenda? Seeing none, the consent agenda is passed unanimously. We'll now move to our open session, beginning with recognition for Pro Tem Dean.
Pro Tem Dean, on campus, I would go for open session.
Yes, ma'am.
It's the Reapportionment and Caucus Reform Act. That's going to change the way on-campus caucuses are represented in elections.
Okay, is there a second to this motion? Very well, you may come and you will have 15 minutes to present.
Well, honey, all is pretty easy. For those of you who are new to Senate, you'll probably know that we technically have 78 senators here with this freshman caucus in filled, but also University Apartments wasn't after having a 19-way tie. And that is a problem. I won University Apartments 2 years ago. I'm not a University Apartment resident, and they had to kind of scramble to find someone to fill it as well. And so it's an issue that they've had multiple years in a row. And because of that, I kind of looked into how University Apartments is represented through on-campus housing. And they go through virtually the same process. They pay their bills the same way, and they pay their rent the same way. They go through the same on-campus rules as the dormitories do, or the apartments off White Creek. And so because of that, I am asking for us to eliminate the caucus of University Apartments and then add that extra seat to on-campus. Just being the on-campus wide. So if people from University Apartments want to run, they can. It would just be as an on-campus senator versus just a University Apartment senator. So not maybe changing the number for on-campus senators, but just adding that to be a university-wide one, especially with the apartments starting up on White Creek and things like that. Anything is on-campus?
Yeah, I'm good.
So that's it. That's what the bill is aiming to do. Yeah. I have no questions.
We'll start with Senator Yost.
Senator Yost. So basically, there's currently 5 on-campus residencies. You'll just be adding the apartments one to make it 6.
So there will be 6. So in the fall, then that vacancy would be considered open for on-campus. So we wouldn't fill it as a University Apartments senator. We would fill it as another extension of on-campus. So I just struck out number 4, they got rid of that and just changed the number to 6 instead of 5. So that's what it does. Doesn't I didn't want to like limit the amount of on-campus senators, but I thought there was a way to reapportion it where it was the student body was represented better.
I'll now recognize myself. Are you guys concrete on review that this is the solution? Because in my mind, it may be better to include White Creek and University Apartments so that the constituency expands. Because we have a similar problem with our University Apartment senators that we have with our on-campus senators, and that not very many people run. I know last year I think there were 3 or 4 write-ins for 5 spots. Would maybe a minimum write-in total for election and then a including White Creek in that be a solution you would consider, or are you concrete that it's best to get rid of University Apartments?
Okay, so from talking to Res Live, just about the process that the University Apartments and White Creek go through training-wise, and how they conduct, I guess, their living situation, it makes sense for me to just do it all under the encompass, like one of on-campus. And the reason for that being that if people from White Creek want to run 1 year, they can. They're considered on-campus. They're considered on-campus when they vote. I talked to Callie about that. So if they're White Creek, then they get to vote for on-campus senators this year. And so because of that, it just makes sense for me to eliminate University Apartments because it's such an underrepresented group, and switch that to on-campus. And in regards, I guess, to there being a smaller amount running the normal, there was a greater amount that ran this year, and I think that we're going to see an increase as we see dorms keep getting renovated and built on campus and added, which is a great thing for freshmen to get to live on campus, and sophomores they get to come back and so on, but just so that number
Yeah, and I live at White Creek and I'm an on-campus senator, and I can tell you we do the same thing. So it's basically a dorm, just it's quite the style. So I think that this is okay with us putting it together. So that's fine.
And I talked to Callie about this before, and she thought it was a much like solved problem of how to fill that spot that doesn't always either doesn't get filled or it gets filled and then 3 meetings in it's vacant again. So.
And are there any other questions? Seeing none, this bill is referred to the Rules and Regulations Committee. Senator Kubik.
Thank you very much. I have a bill for a session.
Yes, ma'am, please briefly say the first few.
It's called the Memorialize Mackie Gaines Bill. The bill advocating for the expiration of waste to honor former Texas State Senator Mackie Gaines.
And there are seconds, so you may come forward and you'll have 15 minutes at hand.
Howdy, Senate. I hope at this point that, hope at this point, Mackie Gaines, that name isn't new to you. If it is, I'll just give you a quick summary of who he was, what he did for Texas A&M. He was a former slave who was elected to be a member, or he served as a member of the Texas State Senate in the 12th and 13th legislature. Yeah, I got it right. And he was a firm supporter of education. He was the one who kind of pushed for Texas to take advantage of the Moral Land Grant Act, which if you're not up on your Texas history, or state U.S. history, it was the one that the federal government made to let states they provided states with land grants if they're going to provide colleges that specialized in agricultural and mechanical arts, which sounds familiar to anybody? I don't know. So he enabled legislation to be passed that helped us take advantage of that and basically helped establish Texas A&M as we know it today. And so there are lots of statues on Texas A&M's campus that honor people who contributed to the university. Sullivan Ross comes to mind, Joe Brothers statue, the ended military walk. We even have a statue honoring the guy who wrote the Texas Aggie War Hymn. Did you know that? Fun stuff. And so I think it would be very appropriate to have a statue honoring Mackie Gaines or some type of memorial. We're open to that as well. And so, yeah, so I can have some news things. Yeah, and there's been lots of efforts in the past to try to get something going to memorialize Mackie Gaines. In the mid-1990s, there was even a committee formed that includes faculty trying to push for this. I think if you all seen the about articles. So all we're trying to do, what this bill is trying to do is give the ad hoc committee that Senator is sharing just kind of a directive to research that and let Senate and give a report to Senate and Texas A&M administrators on whether that would be feasible or not, whether they recommend that or not.
And I got the really wonderful opportunity, Aaron let me go to go to the Inclusion Council meetings the president hosts, and afterwards at the end of that, I talked to a couple of people who also sit on the committee. This is something that they kind of not only questioned, or not only wanted to happen, but also questioned why it hadn't already happened. So I think it's something that our university has placed importance in. They always recognize that importance, and sometimes it gets pushed aside. So I think this is a wonderful opportunity to advocate for legislation, and it's important enough to the student body that we're not going to let it be pushed aside for longer.
And this is something that's actually almost came to be twice now at Texas A&M. So in 1997, the president formed a committee that the Matthew Gaines Memorial Committee who actually recommended a statue for Matthew Gaines to be placed on the campus of Texas A&M. For whatever reason, there's different theories of why it happened. I actually spent 2 days in Cushing Library going through old bats, trying to find why it fell through. And I think the answer is honestly what happened in 1999 with bonfire, and the focus of the university drastically shifted at that point. And there's also the issue of funding. Statues of this size, statues of this nature, they're expensive. They're an expensive thing to put on campus. And then in 2003, it actually came up again with a pretty heavy push, and for whatever reason, it kind of died out again. There's a presidential committee. They actually recommended at first to do it, and then they turned around and recommended that they do some kind of diversity statue instead, was their recommendation. And so this is something that's happened now twice at Texas A&M. And what we're asking is, we're not asking for the statue to be placed. What we are asking is for us to finally put a resolution to this discussion where we will look at it with the ad hoc committee. We will make a recommendation based on what we think. And the university, we're also asking them to create a committee to look into this and make a recommendation on what they believe we should do moving forward to present that to us and the university as a whole.
I would like to piggyback what you talked about, statutes being expensive, and just kind of clarify really quick, all statutes are expensive. Purdue A&M has a park named after him, and part of that park's upkeep is managed by a third-party group that has donated money in order for that park to thrive. And so that's very much something that I think that A&M can look into, because there are many third-party groups that would be interested in donating to the cost of the statue where it wouldn't move the burden of Texas A&M. Even though it's a wonderful memorial, and I don't see it as a burden anyways. But just to clarify, 3 questions about financial program.
And in light of recent events on the university, I think this is just an appropriate time to bring it up again, and kind of use the momentum that we've already created toward, I don't know, building a more inclusive campus.
And this is definitely something that our committee could really get into and push for. So I'm really hoping that we do pass this bill so that we can get into this. It's because it's something that is important.
And if any of y'all are history geeks, like I really encourage you just to check this out. It's really, the history of Senator Gaines is really interesting. Yeah, he was actually about 5 feet tall. It was just a bunch of random, really interesting facts about the guy. And also the Moral Land Grant Act, the fact that actually Purdue A&M was established at the exact same time as Texas. A lot of people aren't aware. Well, they were legally they were established at the same time, and then Purdue A&M just came to be 5 years later. But it's just really interesting stuff that really goes back to the very creation of our university that's actually can draw back to Abraham Lincoln and the signage of a very revolutionary piece of legislation called the Moral Land Grant Act. So I'd really encourage you all to look into it if you're history geeks or if you're bored. And I think, so we for questions.
All right, we will begin questions with Senator Riojas or Strong. I guess I'll recognize myself for a question. I spoke with, I forget the name of the person, but he came and he gave a packet to myself and just Benigno with a bunch of history on that, which I'd be happy to email out to the body. But could you guys go, I spoke with that man personally, and he told me the reason that the statute wasn't approved in 2003 is that the university deemed that he didn't play a significant enough role in the creation, in the passing of that bill. Can you talk about exactly what his role was, you know, and what he did at Texas A&M?
Absolutely. So one of the things that Senator Gaines was a huge advocate for was public education, because you're coming out of it's the 1870s, and you're coming out of Texas, which was a slaveholding state. And Senator Gaines understood that in order for the African American community to be able, and the newly freed community to actually have the ability to prosper in the state of Texas, they needed an education. And he saw the Moral Land Grant Act as a way to really push for that. Because whenever, under the Moral Land Grant Act, if you're an institution were to be created, public institution using state land were to be created for whites, for lack of a better term, white males for lack of a better term, then the state would have to also create a separate university specifically for blacks. And so that's where a lot of the impetus behind that is because he was pushing for education for all in the state of Texas. And that was just a passion of his, being a former slave, being a man who has been enslaved in the state of Texas. That's just something that he pushed for and he was extremely passionate of. There's one other African-American senator in that session, and then there are 12 in the actual House. So
I would say, from what I've read, correct me if I'm wrong, but he kind of was a go-getter and kind of whipped votes, especially among the other African-American senators and representatives, and kind of like led the charge on that. And that was a key part in getting votes, because a lot of Democrats at the time were white males, Democrats like representatives and senators, and kind of, I think, opposed then taking advantage of the Moral Land Grant Act, because they knew that African Americans would be allowed to attend.
Texas barely met the deadline. There's a deadline set on the Moral Land Grant Act, and Texas barely met it in order to receive those federal funds to do it.
Yeah.
And that's how Texas A&M and Purdue were born.
And if you look at like the state historical records, because I know you do a lot of Cushion, I do a lot of state legislature kind of research. He was, as Casey said, one of the main proponents of getting that and making sure that we met that deadline. And really just whipping votes. And I think that that's something to recognize. And while it may not be something that is in the history books, it's still important. I think that we as Texas A&M should recognize that.
And to be clear, that's why we created, we didn't just come out with a bill saying we need this statute. We created a bill saying that what we want the university to do is to look into this and settle this, basically, settle this issue once and for all so that we know what the role Senator Gaines was that he played here. We want him to get the recognition for what he did during his time and the bravery that he had stepping up like that. But also at the same time, we want to make sure that he did play an important role at Texas A&M because it has dropped twice. And we understand it has dropped twice. We've heard different stories about why that's happened. And so because of that, we just want to, once and for all, clear answer, is Matthew Gaines worthy of a statute at Texas A&M?
And not only a statute, I think that that's also something that's been pushed before, and that's where it kind of got dropped off. That Speaker Mitchell asked is like, at what point do we quit pushing for a statute and just push for memorialization of some kind? And so I think the ad hoc committee will be able to find a way to memorialize this, and maybe the best idea is not a statute, maybe it's something else on campus, because there's so many different ways to memorialize something, but figure out a way to memorialize his honor and what he did for Texas A&M.
Are there any other questions for our presenters? Seeing none, this bill is referred to the Campus Climate and Inclusion Committee. Are there any other motions? Oh, sorry, Rosine had it first, I forgot. Yes.
The bill for open session. It's just a bill clarifying unfinished business within our constitution. We had the issue last week or 2 weeks ago.
Is there a second? You will very well, you have 15 minutes to gain time.
All right, it's fairly simple. It just adds in the one spot where unfinished business is talked about. It adds a definition afterwards. It says basically what we came to the conclusion last time, that it can go as needed by the agenda writer within somewhere other than old business. It can go and typically it will be in like after open session before old business starts. So. And it's at the discretion of the writer of the agenda.
Yes, Chair Hood.
Chairman of Finance, does this require that old business is labeled within the agenda?
Yeah, it still leaves in the, all it says is that unfinished business can be its own section, and that its title does not necessarily have to be old or unfinished business. It's that whatever the unfinished business is can be a short description, which is like the passing of the veto or whatever.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any questions for our presenter? Seeing none, this bill is referred to the Rules and Regulations. We'll now move on to Senator Day. Please read the second person bill.
It's called Committee Resolution Act, and it's to improve communication relations between the Student Senate and Executive Committee.
Excellent. Is there a second for this bill? There is. You will have 15 minutes beginning at half.
Howdy.
Howdy.
Okay. I apologize if that's rules and right now. Okay, so I'm just gonna read this off since it used to drive. In the past, especially with like the fish aid bill, there's been some misunderstanding and confusion with bills regarding regulation of committees that are not necessarily in Senate, like executive committees, things like fish aid, whatever. Communication between Senate and the executive branch could be improved, and committees should be given, executive committees should be given the opportunity to offer insight and input to the way their committee functions. We may not know everything about them, but they should be able to tell us how everything goes down before we try to meddle, I guess. So in a particular section of the code, when it comes to bill writing, I just want to add on the end of a thing that for any bill written such that it affects the operations or processes of an executive committee, the chair of the committee will be sent a copy of the bill at least 1 day prior to the Senate meeting, which the first hearing of the bill will occur. Just to give them a heads up that it's going to happen, they can send a liaison to come check it out, and then I guess if they want to, they could get more information about it, go to our Senate committee meeting if they want to offer input. And then there's also a second, let it be enacted, that should this bill occur, the appropriate Senate committee chair will be advised to notify the appropriate executive committee chair the date and time the bill will be edited, just so they can come to the meeting and offer their input. So all this is just trying to improve communication. Yeah.
Are there any questions for presenters?
Seeing none, please refer to the Rules and Regulations Committee. Seeing no more items for open session, Senator Gordon.
I will go for consent.
Yes, sir. Please briefly describe your bill.
That's just a resolution, promoting free speech in student senates. So,
Okay, is there a second? Second. You might have, so a resolution, just to clarify for the body, a resolution, even if proposed in open session, may be passed at that time. So you'll have 15 minutes, 10 minutes Q&A, then we'll begin debate.
all right, so essentially what went down was at Colorado State, there were 10 student senators that essentially just voted against a bill in student senate, and then they faced impeachment just for voicing their opinion against a certain bill. And then at Colorado, or at University of Southern California, what happened was a senator just invited a particular speaker to come to campus, non-controversial. His name was Milo Yiannopoulos, Greek name. But some people didn't like it, called for his impeachment, and just for something as trivial as that. So essentially, it's just calling for these student senates to promote freedom of speech within their walls.
Excellent. We'll begin with questions from Pro-Tem Dean.
Project Dean, make this permission to preface.
Yes, ma'am.
Seeing as they were allowed to exercise their First Amendment rights because they did get to state whatever they felt, I guess should we not allow their student bodies to kind of handle their student government as they see fit?
Well, I guess the purpose of this is more just to not encourage them not to censor their own body. Does that make sense? So it's not intruding, it's more just stepping in on these students' behalf, like patting them on the back for expressing their views and saying, we support you.
Chair Carlson.
Chair Carlson, Student Services. So, first preface.
Yes, sir.
To me, it seems like what went on in this particular student government is these students had the opportunity. I mean, they were all elected, and they're allowed to impeach someone for whatever they want. And so, would this not be, I guess, going against the right of a constitutional document, taking away a right to impeach someone if you disagree with them? Because in my opinion, there's not reasons for impeachment if you can get the votes.
Well, I mean, yeah, I suppose there's an argument there, but I think in this particular instance, if they disagreed with these students' views, like the student body, for example, disagreed with these students' views, the next round of elections, they could just vote them out of office. So.
We'll go to Chair Page.
Chair Page, Academic Affairs. I may have just missed this. Is this being actually sent to those schools or their student governments? Or
I think it.
Is it currently in the bill?
Yeah.
We're in the process of trying to find that information. That's where we would send it.
Commission follow-up?
We have 8 minutes, yes.
Well, we're voting on to pass this or not tonight, so I guess you wouldn't have a chance to change that. So is that a concern of yours?
Well, it has it on here that it's sent to the respective college's senate, not a particular person.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Correct.
We'll now go to Chair Hood.
Chair of Finance, Commissioner Preface.
Yes, sir.
First of all, I got really excited when I saw the fact there's a free speech resolution coming out. So I'm pretty pumped with that. But my question here is, do you see the potential for us writing a resolution and sending it off to another school saying this is something that we disagree with, causing undue conflict that could escalate to a point in which it could get negative media attention both ways? And for example, if we were to send something to the University of Missouri when a lot of stuff was going on that campus, I feel like that's analogous to this. Elaborate on that.
Yeah. Well, I think for the most part, it's not really intruding on the actual school itself. It's more intended as, like I was
telling Pro Tem Dean as like a pat on the back to these particular student senators.
If I may, when we had the eminent domain bill come through here, we did have someone from Sam Houston come through. And it's not that their Senate necessarily wrote us a particular resolution, but she did felt as a member of that Senate that she should come and express how they felt. And I feel like that's just what we'd be doing. Be like, you know what, here's what we're saying. You can take it, you can leave it. We're not trying to change anything. We're just in support of these people who are, trying to speak their own mind and being shamed for it by their own Senate, so.
And like she said, just to piggyback on what Dakota said, we've had people from other student senates, like University of Texas, where they've come here and voiced their opinion in our student senate, for example. So I don't see how this is really much different.
This doesn't call for any sort of action. It just says we support you and your right to free speech.
Permission to follow.
Yes, sir.
Maybe I'm just not understanding. So will this go to the actual Senate, or will this go to the senators that were affected by this?
Well,
As it's written now,
as
it's
it's
to
written,
the
it would go
Senate.
to the Senate as a body,
Okay.
but it could be amended as such to go to the particular senators.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
We have to do that now, though.
I'm not going to Senator Rose.
So.
Senator Rose Corcanet. In thinking of this bill, I can think of several things that we as student senators could say in the body that we probably deserve to be impeached for. And if I was a constituent, well, I was a constituent of liberal arts, I guess, and core, I would feel it was my duty to impeach a senator who was gratuitously racist or homophobic or anti-Semitic or what have you. So in this case, what, if you know, were the specific things that they said that caused such an uproar to the student senate?
Well, in the case of the Colorado State Student Senate, the certain bill in question was just one that would allocate Senate seats without votes to particular students, like without.
It would be to minority groups.
Yes.
So it would be saying that you don't have to run. We're going to give you a seat, and we're going to, if you want it, you can have it. You don't have to run, which is unfair to the rest of everybody else who does have to run for their seats. And that's what I believe it was 10 students that voted against that, and you can impeach, I mean, technically, yes, you can. But it would not be wise to impeach 10 people for, and it's not like it's saying that they have continuously, like, proposed this homophobic ideal of themselves and these 10 people. They've simply expressed how they felt by a vote, and the rest of the Senate decided, oh no, you can't vote that way.
I'm gonna, with 3 minutes and 45 seconds, I'm gonna recognize myself. Would you guys be, please stay in order. Would you guys be willing to maybe table this until the next meeting so some of these concerns can be addressed? Or just something y'all are planning on passing tonight?
No, that's fine.
That's fine.
Okay, we're gonna Senator Day next.
Can I move to this? Am I allowed to do that?
Yeah, you can do that.
Question? I move to send this to committee, I guess, or be revised.
So we can't send it to a committee because it's a resolution, but we can table it until the next meeting if you would like to.
I'd like to table this to the next meeting, if you don't
Okay,
mind.
a motion until the next meeting has been made, which is a debatable motion. Is there any debate against tabling this until the next meeting? Seeing none, debate is one-sided. We'll move into a period of voting on tabling this bill until next meeting. All in favor of tabling this bill until the next meeting, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, please say nay. Nay. That passes. Please stay in order. Seeing no more motions for open session is closed. And we will now, please stay in order. We'll now go to committee reports, beginning with Chair Lander.
Howdy.
Sorry, yes, ma'am.
Pro Tem Dean off campus, is it correct that next Wednesday is the first meeting of 69 session, so chairs should not schedule committee meetings for that day?
I will not say if they should or shouldn't, because it's not, as a point of information, but, yes, the next meeting is, next week.
Thank you for, after the third time being old business, good for our bill passed. But seeing that we have no bills in our committee, no committee meeting unless otherwise, yeah. Good. Thank you.
Are there any questions for Chair Lander? Seeing none, thank you very much. Now go to Chair.
Chair Hood, Finance, Finance Committee, we're going to have a meeting by proxy, which means that I will expect each of you all to be submitting some kind of research having to do with tuition fees, something that you found on your own, to the drive, to the research board that we've been creating. And also, just a couple other things that I'd like to touch on very briefly. Just to the body as a whole, whenever you're writing a bill about a committee, please at least let them know. The finance director of Carpool came and approached me the other day, and I was talking to him, and I said, did you know that the Carpool bill passed, removing the minimum level of funding that Carpool must receive, and he had no idea. And whenever we're writing a bill with the committee, I'd really encourage everyone just to approach the committee and talk to them about that, because he was taken aback, and that was something that was very awkward for me when I was talking to him about that. And with that, I'm just, as far as what my committee's been up to, we've been doing research, like I said, a lot of it stuff on tuition deregulation. I'd encourage you, if you haven't had a chance yet, to go on to the Facebook page. It's the Facebook page. I posted a page from Senator Schwartner, who's a senator representing this district, about tuition deregulation in the state of Texas. That's something that's going to be coming up next year. I think it's something that's going to be pretty contested, and there's a good chance that it might pass. It's going to affect all of us. And as far as everything, yes, and we're working on forming better relations with the committees through our finances. And with that, I yield to.
Are there any questions for Chair Hood? Seeing none, thank you very much. Chair Hood.
Chair Penny, CR. Tomorrow, Wayne and I are going to be going to the city council to speak about a couple things. And then other than that, committee meeting will probably be on Monday. We'll discuss via group meet, but kind of think about Monday or Tuesday. Okay, now you.
All right, and we'll begin questions with Senator Rosine.
Senator Rosine, cul-de-sacs are the thing you're going to the things you're going to discuss. Is there any like?
Well, we're gonna originally we're going to open forum to discuss the distracted driving bill that we passed at the previous meeting, and then I believe that we'll probably touch on the bill that we passed today.
See no more questions. Thank you very much. We'll now go to Chair Boswell.
Chair Boswell, CA. For the new senators that don't know me, I'm the guy that gets your absences removed. So if you want your absence removed, come to me. I know we haven't had tabling hours for the last couple weeks of the spring break and things like that. So we will be having tabling hours on Wednesday next week, same time, 9 a.m. to 3 a.m. Just as a reminder, if you're trying to get an absence removed, you have to do at least 2 hours tabling, or talk to 2 organizations, or try to get a mixed match of both, either 1 hour tabling and 1 organization group and things like that. So other than that, no questions.
Any questions? Seeing none, thank you very much. Chair Page.
Chair Page, Academic Affairs. Seeing as though we have no legislation in my committee, we're not going to have an official meeting. I hope you guys will continue looking into issues and speak with me if you have some. Also, I encourage everyone from my committee to go to tabling hours with CA or go speak to organizations, because I think that'd be great. Anyway, so one update. This is something I received in an email like an hour ago, so I don't have a lot of details yet. But if you guys remember from last year, the Gap Right Awards, which are awards that go to top students in different colleges, those are being set up, and I'm gonna be asking you guys via email if you'll help out to hand them out. Again, just expect an email regarding that. I don't have a whole lot more details right now, but I should in the next few days. Another thing is, me and a few others had a big meeting with Faculty Senate. We'll be having another one very soon, discussing, I think, about 10 bills that have gotten passed that are relating to that. So if anybody has ideas or something they'd like to speak to Faculty Senate about, please let me know. And since I'll be speaking with their entire executive council soon in a formal setting to go through all this. With that, I yield to questions.
Any questions for Chair Page? Seeing none. Thank you very much. Chair Carlson.
Howdy, Chair Carlson, Student Services. So to kind of clarify what I talked about during the 12-man bus bill, basically when we passed the Route 35 name change bill last meeting, it got sent to Peter Lang, and he came back and said, sent me the process of changing bus route names, and it's a long, like, multi-meeting process, and TSAC, Transportation Services Advisory Committee, only meets once a month. And so basically there's just not enough meetings left in this academic year to get any new names passed besides the ones for the new routes that were proposed in February. So that's the reason that Route 35 name change bill is not going to go into effect for the 16-17 school year. So hopefully whoever's in Senate next year will want to push that forward again. That would be great. And the same thing for the one we just passed tonight. We can send it to Transportation Services, we will, but unfortunately probably not going to get passed. Again, I would encourage anyone who's in the 69th session to bring that legislation back up. As far as the new routes that Madeline Dillard came and spoke with us about, so they have proposed names, and I think Wayne and I mentioned a few meetings back that for the first one to the vet school is an option for the name, and then for the other one, it's between Century Tree and Whoop. At our next meeting, which will be the first week of April, which will be the first Wednesday of April, so I guess 2 weeks from now, it'll be before we have another Senate meeting. They're going to ask for the student government's official opinion. My personal opinion is Century Tree over Whoop as the route name, but that's just my personal opinion. So I'll send out a poll, I guess. Aubrey will help me. I don't really know how to do that. Gmail poll, whatever. Over what you guys would prefer over Century Tree or Whoop. But those are the two choices, whichever you think makes more sense for a bus route. So that's pretty much it for updates. As far as my committee meeting goes, we do have legislation. We're going to stick to the normal Wednesdays at 6. That shouldn't affect the 7 o'clock meeting for the 69th. If any new senators that have to go to Development Day are in my committee, I'll work with you guys one-on-one and get that taken care of, because Development Day will be going on. But for everyone else that's been here and not a new senator, Wednesday at 6 o'clock like normal. With that, I yield to questions.
Seeing no questions, thank you very much. Chair Sonk.
Chair Sonk, Rules and Regulations. The first thing I want to say is we're revising Student Rule 7, which has to do with attendance. You'll saw a little bit about that today, but we're looking at the whole rule. So if you have any other ideas, get in contact with me before a week from this Friday. So we can incorporate those before the Student Rules and Regulations Committee. Other than that, my committee will meet on Tuesday at 7 p.m. We have several bills. And with that, I'm open for questions.
Seeing no questions, seeing no questions, thank you very much. Pro-Tem Dean.
President being off campus. So for newly elected senators that just filled vacancies, y'all are gonna prep, I'm gonna send that out tomorrow morning for y'all to prep, and I'll have it back to y'all by tomorrow night and what committee you're gonna be placed in, and also remind you of the committee times if you're in a committee. For those senators that filled a vacancy that missed the Development Day today, I would really appreciate y'all to attend the Development Day at 5:30 next Wednesday. Sorry if that was confusing in how I worded that email to y'all, but I think it's really good for y'all to attend at least one, so we can talk about rules and stuff like that. In terms of IA, we are going to be having another brunch IA meeting, and we're going to decide whether we would like to do like a tour and do Blackwater Draw, or we'd like to go back to Baseball Corner. Other than that, if y'all have any questions, feel free to email me. Yeah.
Ad hoc Chair Clark.
Oh, I don't know.
Okay. Chair Linder.
Chair Linder, what time does work start?
We did 11 last time. Do we like 11? Are y'all gonna come this time? A lot of people didn't make it for the last one, so we're gonna try it again. So 11 again. We're gonna try.
And we're not going to Senator Rizzi. Senator Blair.
It depends on the question and how urgent I find it.
Seeing no more questions, thank you very much. We'll now move on to a period of executive reports. I've been informed by Student Body President Benigno that he is sending Hannah Wimberly, which is it's a right afforded to the Student Body President of the Constitution to send somebody on the executive cabinet if they would like. And we go to ad hoc Clark for motion.
Ad hoc Chair Clark on campus. One information.
Yes.
Does the ad hoc chair get to give a report.
Oh, yes.
So basically, leaving time, I'm thinking Wednesday at 6, but it's not a set in stone thing. So just be looking at your emails, looking at your texts, because I'll be talking to you. That's basically it.
Okay, well, you said a meeting time, you should probably set a meeting.
Okay, Wednesday at 6.
Wednesday, 6 is the meeting time, very well. Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you very much. We'll now go to Wendy.
Sorry about that.
That's not.
Howdy, Senate. As Aaron said, I'm here on behalf of Joseph. He's in his apologies that he can't make it. I'm going to keep this short and sweet and just give y'all some general updates of what's been happening in the past few weeks. Academic affairs on that front passed the bill trying to change the name from ISIS back to Info. Last we heard it is too late for us to do that for the 2016-2017 year, but they say it probably shouldn't be an issue moving into getting that done for the 2017-2018 school year. So we are no more LR, as y'all probably heard, Jacob Barnett and his team have been, along with the LR chair, have been working on creating the coalition of Texas schools to have a joint agenda that we lobby for within the Texas legislature. At this point, there's about 20 schools on board representing over 400,000. I think this will be incredibly beneficial over the upcoming year when the legislature is in session. They are also right now, they're looking at Texas A&M for what their bills should look like, which I think is awesome. And as Jacob spoke about and Joseph spoke about, we are a leader in creating really what could be an overarching policy agenda for the next year. At this point, they are looking at our LR team and creating LR teams very similar to ours. So kudos to all of y'all and kudos to Jacob for really setting the tone for hopefully a great year in public policy for the education standpoint and legislature. 2 or 3 weeks ago, there was a meeting with President Young where we brought up the interview absence bill. I know we've been talking about that since 67th and probably even before that. He seemed receptive to continuing to talk about that. So hopefully we can make some ground within the end of the semester, and if we can't make the ground there, that's something that's a priority for me for next year. SJ Banquet, that's going to be on April 25th. Y'all will be getting information about that. You're also going to be getting information about how to nominate people for the awards. Y'all are a huge group within SGA, and you also know a lot of people within SGA. So once you get that link to nominate people, I really encourage you to nominate not only just senators that you know, but senators that you may not know as well, and also just members of SGA that you think deserve the award. It's a really great time to come together towards the end of the year, and not just work with Senate and Fed, but all of us together to celebrate what has been a really great year. Really, if you look, it was the 21st on Monday, and so that means that exec has less than a month now until the roles are ceremonially over. We've been stressing to cabinet to really finish out this month strong. As you can see in Senate, there's still bills coming through, and we're still responsible for executing those. So we're working really hard to not only finish out strong, but to create transitions so next year's executive cabinet and next year's Senate can work really well together and accomplish a lot. That's all I have. I'd be welcome for questions right now.
Are there any questions for the chief of staff? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thanks, y'all.
We'll now go to Jake Smith, our Chief Justice.
Howdy. Howdy. First of all, I found it reprehensible that our student body president can't come to speak in front of Senate. I just drove in from Houston, and I run down the hallway. I'm not in very good shape. I'm still breathing hard. Then he couldn't come and speak. I find this impeachable motion. I'm just kidding. We haven't had enough time with Jake, so I figured that would be more fun. Yeah, like you know, we haven't had any J-Court cases in this election year. I'm just kidding. Anybody kind of look like you're sweating back there? I'm saying impeaching, so you know it's okay. Come to our court. I like to think that we're going to keep them. No, we didn't have any cases this year. Whether that's good or bad. That's the first time I'm talking to Sammy. She said that's the first time that we haven't had any J-Court cases during the spring election year since she's been here. Why are knocking makes me for a born spring. But I don't know if that makes me the best Chief Justice, the worst Chief Justice that has been. I'm an optimist, or glass half full. I'm the best Chief Justice that's been. He agrees. So I'm trying to think, and it's the other turn to 11, right? Normally when I come up here and I want to speak or say something, y'all motioned to dismiss, and so that's boring, so you're gonna be here till 11. But I was trying to think what I'm gonna say as I ran down the hallway and told Justice Dury to tell Speaker Mitchell I'm 2 minutes out, so I have to be here to give this speech. I'm gonna think about I'm trying to think of what to say, make it motivational, inspirational. I'm graduating in May. There you go, trying to get rid of me that fast, okay. I don't know what to say, and my main thing I want to say is make connections in this room. You know, and make it more than just a student government opposition, or, you know, thing on opposition. Make it more than a student government thing, that you leave this room and you're not friends anymore. I made some of the best friends that I know keeping my life in this room. Once Speaker Mitchell, I'm sure he'll be my friend for the rest of my life. I hope so. I like this guy. But make connections in this room that really means something to y'all, because each one of these people, no matter where they go, I mean, we have some people going to Indiana for Notre Dame Law School, going around the world for law school. You know, Chief Justice Brenton Cooper's at Chicago Law School. He's going to be a big deal one day. Keep his phone number in there, because I know I'll probably have to get in jail a couple times. I'll need his phone number. You're laughing, I'm for real. Yeah, I mean, I'll be moving to DC, so it's just something that, keep these contacts. These are the next state leaders, American leaders, and world leaders in this room. Because y'all mean something. Y'all really do. Y'all mean something to this campus. Y'all mean something to this state. Y'all mean something to this country. And don't just make this a thing that you come in here for student government. Make this where you make connections, friends. It really do mean something. I was listening to a motivational video today, mostly because I didn't want to write an international conflict paper. So one thing immediately talked about is the kind of decorum you bring into a room as you walk in. Make it a room that when you walk into a room, is something that you bright up a room when you walk in. People want you to be in the room. Half the people in here I'm sure do, and the other half don't. That's fine. But are you the type of person that when you walk into a room, do you lighten up the room, or do you lighten up the room once you leave the room? You know what I mean? I've been both of those people. Be the type of person that lightens up a room when you walk in. And all of you are. All of you are the type of people that I want to keep in contact with in the future. And you're also my best friends. I don't know if I'll get to give this speech in the future at all, because normally y'all don't want to hear me talk, so you motion to dismiss. So I don't know when I'll get to give this speech. When I got the opportunity, I'm going to. I got another fan.
Point of information.
But, yes.
Is that how much time does the presenter have left?
That's 3 minutes and 50 seconds.
3 minutes, 50 seconds? Now I lost my train of thought. No, but for real, y'all mean a lot to me, and I've been here, since my freshman year. I ran for Senate my freshman year and I lost. I get joy. Probably for the best. It really was. Probably would have been a good senator. I would have won re-election. To be honest, it's kind of in a position that I don't have to win re-election. But definitely, and another thing is the vital part of mentorships. Coming here, I didn't know anybody coming to this room at all. And so when you come here, and this is mostly for the younger people, I'm sure this is more something for the 69th session, but find someone who's a mentor to you. Find someone who's more of a senior, once you get up there as a senior, and actually find either faculty or people that are actually in the community to be a mentor to you. Find those connections and actually ask them what they did wrong. Because I'm sure you meet some of them, they've done everything wrong, they've done everything right. So find those people in your life. Cool. That had nothing to do with J Court, because we don't have anything going on at all. I think we're on awesome. We're on awesome pretty soon, aren't we? Yeah, we are. Yeah, right, we are. All right, I'm done.
Thank you, Chief Justice Smith. We'll now begin questions with Chair Hood.
Chair Hood, Finance. Permission to preface.
Sir.
Chief Justice, I just want to thank you for brightening up the room this evening. You served in the Senate and student government. You do anything but serve the Senate, so Good. But I do have a writing for you. So last year, Chief Justice Cooper took the mantle of something that was very near and dear to his heart, and that was caffeinate with Cooper and the cure of disease. Is there anything that you want to close out with in your time as Chief Justice before you go?
Ooh, I hope I left a lot of legacies. Caffeinate with Cooper, let's give a little backstory about that one. Okay, my Keurig broke the other day. And I've had that since my freshman year, and that was very disappointing in my life. Now the coffee pot, did you ever have to call your mother when you're a grown man and a senior in college, call your mother, forgot to make a cup of coffee? I did the other day. Very disappointing part of my life. Caffeinate with Cooper. What legacy do you think I have? Justice Stewart, what legacy do you think I have? We're gonna go ahead and call this in order. Call me out of order, please. I just told you not to. I'll let you decide my legacy. Not you, I mean the body. Let's take a vote. I mean the body works a little better in that situation.
Go to Senator Kubyar.
Retweet, but retweet.
Thank you for your retweeting. We'll now go to Senator Luce.
Senator Luce from Overall Arts. Were you running so far down the hallway at such a quick speed that you lost your necktie?
What? Chair Hood, that's my legacy. I would want a Chief Justice if it never wear neckties. Don't do it. Just don't do it. Who are you trying to impress? Don't wear neckties. We're all who are you trying to impress?
Go to Chair Page.
Chair Page, Academic Affairs. So if Speaker Mitchell's your best friend, can you like maybe that top 5 in the Senate or something?
Top 5 friends or top 5 enemies? I think enemies is a little easier.
I think it's both. Yeah, probably the same people.
All right. I think it would line up great. Start there and go down. Let's do that. What? I would agree. Yeah, 1, then 2. Huh?
All right, we go to Senator Edmund. Are there any other questions for the Chief Justice? Chair Sankey, sorry.
Chair Sankey, rules and regs.
Don't ask a hard question.
Now that I've been named your number 2 frenemy, I'm worried about you, man. I was wondering, is there a reason your second button's button at night?
Well, as a comment from Houston, I just went to an alumni event, and that I just felt, be a little classy now, Jake. Not the second button.
Are there any other questions? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Cool.
All right, we can start again.
Well, howdy, Senate.
Howdy. Yes, Senator Edmonds.
Sarah's off campus, I moved to adjourn.
That is so disrespectful.
Hey, you're out of order.
It is.
Out of order.
It's so disrespectful.
You're out of
I
order.
work every single day
You're out of
for you
order.
guys, and I want to talk to you.
Okay, give a second. Now we're gonna vote. I'm gonna remain unbiased. I would encourage the body though to allow him to speak. Okay. We're gonna vote now. All in favor of adjourning, please say aye. All in favor? Chair, that failed. Give your speech, Aaron, starting with Holly. Hey, stay in order. Chair Page.
Chair Page, Academic Affairs. I move to extend the period of presentation by 20 minutes.
Well, there have been multiple seconds to that as well. So all in favor of extending the period of presentation by 20 minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
All of those. Any ayes in the chair? You can begin it, Howdy. Please begin, Howdy.
Well, howdy, Senate. Howdy. Thank you very kindly for not adjourning and allowing me to speak. I think I have a record low of exec reports the chair through a motion to adjourn, or it's not having enough time. It really has restricted because I have a lot to say with you guys. I wanted to address, while we're on the point of Catholic Cooper, since we got our Senate office, Senate cured K-Cup retention rates have been up over 200% because Jake won't stop drinking our dang coffee. I wanted to let you all know after that, it's been one of the great accomplishments of the Mitchell speakership. Just kidding. But anyways, guys, this is my last meeting as the speaker. So at our next meeting, we will have a new speaker for the 69th. And I'd encourage you all to make that that decision very carefully and think about who you really think will do the best job. We've done a lot this year. We've had an extremely successful session. We've got a lot of things done for students. When I think about this session, I will think about getting the seal back on the diplomas. When I think about this session, I will think about the career closet, which has now serviced over 100 students using about 1,200 I will think about the historic relationship we built with Texas A&M System and our new university president. And I will think about the fee increases that we defeated as a board. So y'all have a lot to be proud of, and I thank you for the opportunity to have served as speaker. It's been very challenging. I was telling somebody this the other day. Throughout the year, I might have done a lot of things that made you mad, like my J-Court amendment or that awesome memo I wrote, or anything like that. But I did what I said I would do, and that's that we built great relationships with the administration. We lobbied for the and we had a successful year overall. And that's what I campaigned on, that's what I promised on, and that's what we did. So thank you all for the opportunity to serve. It really has been a rewarding experience. I've learned a lot, and you guys have been fantastic. So that's really all I wanted to say. Thank you once again for letting me speak. I would have liked that 20-minute extension, to pull a Jake Smith up here and talk about my tie and whatever. But thank y'all once again.
And with that, we'll move to a period of question and answer, starting with Senator Burch.
Senator Burch, Ag and Life Science, since you said that we have, our K-Cups are up, the percentage we have is up so tremendously, I was just wondering, do we actually have any K-Cups?
Oh, so we're out as right now. However, all K-Cups are paid from the Aaron Mitchell 16 scholarship for K-Cups, which is expiring at the end of this year. So there's no replenishment inside. You guys will have to figure that out.
Senator Evans.
Do you have any big messages that you want to leave with us as our honorable Supreme Court?
So one of the things the Chief Justice talked about was you come here and make a lot of friends and connections. I don't think we're here to make friends. I think we're here to do work for students, and that's how I look at it every day. It's relationships are an important thing. However, what's important at the end of the day is what we get done for students, and that's that's my big thing. The second thing is lobbying the administration, having a positive relation with the administration, and especially the board of regents is the most important thing this body can have, and that's the reason we've been successful this year. And the third thing, because there's always got to be three, is stay true to your principles, be firm, do what you say you're going to do. That's all I got.
Senator Turner.
Senator Turner, off campus. First, thank you, Aaron, for your service. Second, how are you going to get your Wednesday workouts in without the big gavel?
I don't know. That's like the only workout I ever get. So I have no
with something else the next speaker. But yeah, we'll stay.
Senator Blair.
Me working at a gym, speaking about working out, would you be willing to work out?
I'm not trying, I don't know what you're trying to say. All right, I used to pump a lot of iron back in my high school days. Okay, all right. I might have skipped a few workouts here and there. But I don't have any plans of like just going really hammer the gym anytime soon. But if you wanna work out, just give me several options of times. I'll help in it all.
With that, if no more questions, we will close the period of exec reports. And
What? Like, that's what you do in your dirt. What position are you doing for?
Please stay in order and close your roll call.
SVP Benedict. Chief Justice Smith. Howdy. Speaker Mitchell.
Howdy.
Myself, Chair Salka.
Howdy.
Chair Page.
Howdy.
Chair Finney.
Howdy.
Chair Lander.
Howdy.
Chair Carlson.
Howdy.
Chair Hood.
Howdy.
Chair Bosworth.
Howdy.
Bill. Bill.
Bill.
Bill. Gordon. Allen.
Howdy.
Walker.
Howdy.
White. White. Roach. Howdy. Renfro.
Howdy.
Smith. Howdy. Chapman.
Howdy.
DeBoer.
Howdy.
Rhodes.
Howdy.
Ferguson. Howdy. De Leon.
Howdy.
Hendrick.
Howdy.
Howard. Howdy. Rob. Rob. Yeah. Hunter Brown. Nick Brown. Henderson. Hess. Lambert. And IA, y'all can stay quiet, that'd be long. Lambert. Robinson. Howdy. Turpin. Howdy. Gillen. Cook.
Howdy.
Sweet. Habib. Wright.
Howdy.
Blair. Cox. QBR. Howdy. Kugler.
Howdy. Howdy.
Schaller. Day. Howdy. Slavin.
Howdy.
Roseanne.
Howdy.
Clark.
Howdy.
Lewis. Price. Rios.
Howdy.
Blackman. Bonnet. Brennan. Chin.
Howdy.
Collins. Pivot. David. Evan. Giles. Gill. Canfield. Cruz. Crook. Levy. Madden, McDonald, Mendoza, Bertha. Hey, can y'all stay quiet, please? Gill, Rao, Simpson, Data, Strother, Crano, Turner.
Beat the hell out of you.
I am too.